Everyone, today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026.
Can't hear you well.
Would you like to move your chair up a little bit?
There?
Okay, you can move up a little bit.
Yeah. And wherever it's comfortable, and I'll try to speak up.
You want to move the table or just?
Okay, so I'll call this meeting to order of the Gloucester School Committee. And State Commission of Gloucester Public Schools is for all students to be successful, engaged, lifelong learners. I ask that you stand in integrity and that you move to the silence.
Public for which it stands.
Yeah, sure. It's been a difficult year, there's lots of reasons. Tragedy is a community in many ways, sadness. In the past week, we lost the love and staff of the hereditary here. He wasn't always also a colleague, but also a friend, also a friend to many people around this table in this community, lifelong friends. She was the secretary at East Veterans School, but also before that, East Gloucester. Before that, also worked with Mayor Sebastian as her assistant, but then also was special education secretary, paraprofessional, and school secretary in our schools. So I think she worked at every school except for Plum, and I want to say the high school, but I'm not sure. There's 2 schools I know that she did. He was a person, just personally, whenever I came to East Veterans, he made me feel like he was glad to see me. And she did that for a lot of people. That is a wonderful gift. She was known as a fashionista, with great style, also comes of substance. And one of the favorite moments of the staff at East Veterans was when you get on the phone with the father, or speaking, sometimes loudly, Italian. But they really, we missed, and she had a challenging, brave battle with cancer, which is coming this past weekend. Services on Friday, and yes, in so many ways.
First order of business is oral communications. If anybody would like to address the committee.
Hello, my name is Brett Dutton. I'm a 20-year veteran teacher at O'Malley School. I've been teaching art there. We've built a program that I don't know, we're proud of. There's a proposal for a schedule change 26, 27 that would majorly impact what we have going. It would not just for me as a specialist, but for PE, we have skating again. I'm not going to speak to that, but I'll speak to art. We have a play program, printmaking. We have an 80-minute block, and we've had this for a long time. It's plenty of time for students to switch from all of their left brain activities to their right brain activities. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous. I don't want to speak in front of people. I speak in front of kids all the time. It's fine. And I just feel that the proposed 47-minute class would be detrimental for studio, having a studio experience that was authentic. They proposed that it would be every day for 47 minutes, which is great, but it turns into like a turnover choo-choo. We've had junior high models before. I know it's not a junior high model, but I'm afraid of it becoming that again. So I just wanted to wear or be, just express my concern.
Thank you.
And just
My name's Mike Johnson.
3 minutes. So
Yes, sir.
Yep.
My name is Mike Johnson. I live at 1214 Schoolhouse Road. And I'm kind of speaking to the audience rather than you people. Children.
Just turn it up.
That me? Yes, it is.
Hang on, times two. Okay.
Hey, be sure to get me, because I'm gonna look you up later. Hey, that doesn't come.
We're gonna restart. Turn it over.
There's an outfit called School Digger that rates schools, and Gloucester gets 1 star. Manchester, not to be expected, it gets 5. Even Rockport gets 3, and Gloucester gets 1. Okay? The state administrative scores are down in every category this past year. And they're down over the past 3 or 4 years significantly. We're currently at English, we're at 34%, and at math, we're at 31%. Those are terrible scores. Hey, now the American dream, hey, having your children be better off than you are, hey, that may not be possible with a Gloucester education. Why? You guys. Hey, you're good at what you do, you're nice people, hey, don't get me wrong. You work very hard, hey, but you don't understand the problem, or you're in denial of the problem. The problem, hey, needs fixing. Okay? Hey, let us all work together and see if we can bring about real change, but we do need it. Our kids deserve it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lajat. I'm a community member. I'm also a past employee. I was a teacher at Gloucester for 27 years. I just wanted to expand a little bit on what my husband has brought to my attention and to your attention about the schedule. I am, as some people who know me, I'm a fierce advocate for students. And I feel that this schedule proposal would greatly impact all students. I know the core teachers who are my fellow colleagues for many years have great concern because it is reducing their time, their face time with the students. I remember when O'Malley changed the schedule and our core classes became 60 minutes, and I was concerned because I work with a population that it's hard to even get them to stay contained in 40. What teachers do with 60 minutes is develop the critical thinking skills that we need in our kids today. And, you know, with one-to-one with Chromebooks, it really took a hit. Those 60 minutes, what they can do with that is project learning where these kids really think and critical. If you don't have the time and you don't allow the time for a student that their only outlet is art, where they excel, or their only outlet or passion is to be on the hockey rink, what are we doing? We need to have a whole brain approach to educating our kids. We need to develop resiliency. We can't do that in 47 minutes. And I'm talking about all populations of students, special ed, regular ed, it doesn't matter. These are children and this is how they need to be educated. It is concerning to me, this is going to a vote. We've had votes before. We know what that is. Teachers' voices are not heard, and I'm concerned. We vote things that we don't want, and it happens anyways. I'm just thinking we have to think about our children in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Ann Boucher, I see your hand raised.
We're trying.
Thank you. Hi, Mary Ann Day, 93 Mount Pleasant Avenue. I don't have anything to say other than the people that just spoke at the podium, you can hear them very clearly. You cannot hear the school committee members very well. I've noticed this in the last few school committee meetings, and I'm hoping that you can do something about it because I'm sure there are parents that are listening in or people that are listening in and they value what you all have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
whenever this schedule change. Go to a committee and totally unaware of it. Then I can develop.
It's very muffled still, if you can hear me.
We're
trying to fix it now.
I'm trying closer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I just know you have Cody. Looks like he's at home, so I don't know if he's hearing it like I am, but
Yeah, it is a bit muffled. I wasn't sure if that's how it was or not, but
not usually.
okay.
Thank you, Mary Ann, and also the part about not usually, so not quite sure how it's going or why it's doing that. Not sure what we can troubleshoot right now.
It almost sounds like you're delayed a bit too at times. For like 10 seconds you're speaking and your lips are going to your words, and then all of a sudden it's muffled and delayed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, seeing no other hands, wait.
So let me, the schedule changes don't come to the school committee. O'Malley's following a process other schools have followed, which is that this has been built with teachers and instructional leader team. They're now going through a process, make sure the staff knows about it, discusses it, and then the staff will vote on it. Really similar to all our elementary schools, when they wanted a schedule change, that was a more limited one around planning time. Happy to come and talk to you about the full picture and advantages and, any schedule we have now here at O'Malley or the high school or any place is always a trade-off, multiple factors. So happy to have, I know Amy has work to work on as well, to have Mike Titus come and explain to you what they've done, what they've looked at, what they've considered, the options they were looking at, and then ultimately what the proposals going forward. The proposal that's coming to the staff is, okay, but you've been involved, they won't be involved, it'll be ultimately up to the staff inside, and in the same way that other staffs have in the position.
I want to be involved, yeah.
Me too.
Okay.
The chair, we'll make sure we put it on.
Okay, next order of business is our student advisory council. Thank you so much for being here.
So to start on April 10th and 11th, or 10th to the 12th, the National Art Owner Society is having a pop-up art gallery at Cove Gallery to show the artwork of its junior and senior members. The opening reception is April 10th from 4 to 6 p.m. if anybody is interested in it. The Visual Arts Department is also going on a field trip to New York City this Friday, where they will visit the Museum of Modern Art, experience Times Square, the Vessel, and Washington. And the Guidance Department did a field trip to UNH today, with 50 kids in attendance to tour the school.
NHS inductions were last week and went very well. The mental health ambassadors have been doing fun activities during lunch on Wednesdays to promote taking care of your mental health, and spring sports have officially started.
Can you give me the date again of the art?
It's the 10th to the 12th of April.
Okay, thank you. Is that everything?
Yeah, that's all for this week.
I'm sure it's getting to be a busy time, so there'll be more coming up.
Yeah, it's very soon.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is business is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items they'd like to remove? Move that we approve the consent agenda as we need to know about that. And we're going to talk about here the what? The vans. Caption of the vans. The vans. Yeah, there's a vans report.
Yeah,
Talk about
no,
it.
I'm just, well, it's on.
Do you want to take it out?
Yeah, let's just take it out and we'll.
Do it separately. Okay, so we're removing the vans, and I'd like to just remove the donation of the 35 panels, just or just highlight it, I guess, maybe let's just highlight it now.
Okay, so sorry, I'm sorry. I was thinking you're gonna highlight it, but you're looking at me to highlight it. I'm with you. Sorry. I just appreciate this from Jason, City Councilor Jason Crow. He did a photography exhibit at City Hall that was focusing on veterans in the community. Fantastic exhibit. He put together 35 wooden panels. I think they were from doors, It's right. To display that, he built those display panels out of doors. They're freestanding. And he very generously offered them to the schools, middle school and high school, to see if they had any need for them, the art departments, the principals, the art departments to the principals. And I didn't think they would, and they jumped on it. So he's dividing in between the two. Not a picture for you, but they're, as you can imagine, they're types of things you photographs or artwork on display. We have, you've seen them down in the sort of the hallway, at least the auditorium for different displays. And these are going to be more and very sturdy ones. One of the questions was, do we have places to store them? So I asked the principals, and then we can do. So, yeah, so just really appreciate Councilor Grow for thinking of us and following up. And
Super. I want to do the same thing with the vans, but we're going to talk about the vans at the end. But I just wanted to highlight that too, because it's such a great gift. So I didn't know.
well, I can. What I'd like to do, if I can quickly, I forgot to get seeing if I can find a picture.
In the BNF back.
It was in our packet, yeah.
The picture one.
Yeah, big white van.
As it currently stands. As the van.
It's a blurry.
Yeah,
I've seen
I'll-
them out on the road though, so I'm familiar with them.
Yeah, so let me back up and I'll show you this. Photos is CADA. So we've been talking about getting smaller vans that could help with our transport, including small teams, small athletic teams, or other also for the Voc Tech program, getting to their off-site placements. Okay. And looking for them and priced them out numerous times, looked at leasing them. All were more expensive than we could budget for sort of stuff. Well, Brenda Waslick, because she is a real expert at finding dollars, finding grants, pursuing things, pursuing people, partnerships. Okay, she was talking to CADA somehow, which how, and I think she saw that CADA was listing vans that were surplus. So she called them up, and they had one, or they had a number of them. Small pasture vans, hold about 15 people, I believe. And she said, yeah, I want to do it. Check with me. I said, vans. And I said, any more? And so we called it together. The woman at CADA who always helps Brenda, but she had a couple more. So we're, as you can see on this, we're getting value vans. I mean, see on the agenda, 3 vans that are valued a total of $60,000 for $1 each. Okay, which is a good deal. And probably can't beat that deal. Exactly right. So they do need some work, and the auto shops do fix them up, that sort of thing. Tune them up, that sort of thing. Go ready first as would be appropriate. Auto tech students are working on the CBT advantage, which makes sense. So that's the update on that. I don't know the exact condition of them and when they can be roadworthy. But Jack Porter shows us they can. We would not have off them or accepted the nation. We'll just show you quickly. So one of the vans, because again, Brenda has acquired some grant dollars to wrap one of the van, the CBT van. So I can show this to you. So that's that's what it'll look like. Oops. That's the back of it, the fisherman. I'm not sure if people know, but that fisherman logo was created, or graphic was created by Grant Harris, our key director. And then you also see on the front some good billboarding for CBTE. So we aren't sure about the other ones yet. This is all new to us. But we will have to work out some protocols and procedures around the vans, and also work with our transportation office. Something that Mr. Melvin And the BNS committee has been pushing for a while, and we found a way, or a way found us. Good.
Bigger and better than what we could have purchased.
I think so. Yep.
Okay, so it's consent agenda has been seconded. Yes. Okay.
I'll second it. I don't know if you got a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good news on the consent agenda. Next item is the most important part, deliberation on education issues and the superintendent's report. Over to Superintendent Ross.
Good. Thank you, folks. So a few things tonight. First, I'll give you the news from around the districts, some news. Then we'll go over, Amy and I will talk about the plan for transition to being superintendent. We'll go through the first sort of review of the MSBA statements of interest. And then also we'll consider the Special Education Reserve Fund, so an allocation from the Special Education Reserve Fund. And then quick budget update as well. So a lot on the docket tonight. Let me pull up my presentation. Okay. As we say in the Gloucester Public Schools, everybody matters. Everybody belongs. And every student belongs.
Yeah, just ask it.
So, there's tonight. So for a few things, share a multilingual learner department, and this specifically is with Christine Castle. They've launched a new school-based food pantry. And also, sorry, our administrators there, and also food service staff. We've launched a food pantry at Lily Middle School. We're partnering with the Open Door to provide weekly non-perishable food items directly at the school for students and their families, obviously. Really appreciating this, recognizing the need of our students who face food, families face food insecurity. First noticed by our food service workers and then supported by administrators there and Christine Castle. And there will be, and also our nurses as well. And so this will help a lot of things. One, help families with some additional food for nights and weekends. We've developed a process where it can be confidential and and be respectful of the privacy of the families and students rather. And another example of building connection, building a sense of belonging and community. And really a good example of a caring, inclusive environment. So really appreciate all those folks working together along with the Open Door, supporting middle school students and families. So we had a genocide committee meeting, learning about genocide committee for the last couple of years. It comes from a grant that Rich Francis and then Sean Goulart and also Amy Camp pursue from the Department of Education from DESE. And their work has been acknowledged. So by Essential Partners, they've been working with Essential Partners, who you may or may not know is a camp-based group. One of the founders and principals lives in Gloucester down Saroof. And they've been our task force or committee has been working with Essential Partners to develop their work and also integrate learning about genocide and learning about impacts of genocide into different parts of our curriculum. Can you just read off the members of the committee who are doing all the work?
Yep, so Amy Camp helped tremendously with writing the grant. Alyssa D'Antonio and Amory Stackhouse were co-chairs of the committee. Also on the committee are Rich Francis, Mike Puna, Nick Tower. Yeah. And I attend them once in a while too, but they're doing all the work.
They're looking at how it helps you better understand aspects of othering, displacement, action and inaction that can lead or in the face of genocide. And looking at it from a variety of angles. It's a type of work and curriculum, subject matter that can be integrated into a variety of different subject areas. And Essential Partners has asked them to present at their Building Hope for America's Next 250 conference. It's coming in July. It's a secondary school summit. They see this work and the work to create dialogue and learning around the impact of genocide as really being a model for other schools to learn about. Yeah, that's great. Could you explain, could you tell Jennifer Minahan? You're sort of leading it?
Okay, so Jessica Minahan is a nationally recognized, renowned internationally actually, BCBA. She works with schools all over the world about working with students with behaviors. So she's been in our district before in small doses. We are looking at a larger comprehensive use of her methods, and the kickoff was really this last week on Monday. She came into the district and did a training for all of our clinical staff, is where we started. And then the following day, she went to Beeman Elementary School and did what's called a fishbowl. So what it is she observes a student that's having some challenge, whether it be work avoidance or dysregulation or whatever it is. And then sits with the classroom teacher and the clinicians, and the training is really on the clinical staff. But we are training our own adjustment counselors, psychologists, BCBAs to do the work that she does. And so she is, on Tuesday, she modeled, which was yesterday, it's been a long week. She modeled the questioning style that she uses with a teacher to kind of get to the root cause of what's causing a behavior. She takes all of the extra stuff out of it and just does a really behavioral analysis, and then helps give suggestions on how to support or even change the way we approach a student that's having some difficulty. I was fortunate yesterday to be there for the entire fishbowl, and it was amazing to watch perspectives change in the room. When it started, there was a lot of not really understanding why a student was doing that. By the time we got to the end, we understood better of what was causing the student to have certain behaviors and how we could better support that student, and also developing empathy for what was there. And our clinical staff is just starting to learn how to do that on their, we'll eventually let them do it on their own. There is no way we would ask them to do that after one training. This is going to have to be a prolonged training that will take actually years. So we are committed this spring to have her, she did the clinical staff. She's going to do 4 fishbowls, 2 at Beeman and 2 at O'Malley. Those are our schools that have decided to kind of spearhead the work. And then next year she'll come back, continue to work with Beeman and O'Malley, and broaden it to the other schools as well. We were able to have the clinical staff at the other schools zoom in and listen and watch the questioning staff. So they don't have to wait to learn this. They were zoomed in and heard the conversation and the questioning. So they're starting their training as well as that. We will also have her come to our leadership retreat in August. We're getting ready for the next school year. And then she will do a keynote speech for the entire district on December 8th, whatever that Tuesday half day is. I don't remember exactly. I think it's December 8th. And we'll continue the fish bowls throughout next year and possibly beyond until our clinical staff are kind of more fluent in the style.
Right.
Yes.
So the training that they're getting, it's hands-on training, but is there resources available so that by the time she comes again, they've been able to do some research or have some materials
Yes.
to rely on to improve before she comes again?
So what was interesting, and she used the words yesterday, she goes, I know you're going to be angry with me on this, but I'm not going to just hand you all the resources, because then that you just have a big book or file that collects dust. We're going to go through them and you're going to build your own notes and resources. So she's helping us build our Gloucester resources from her work in training. But that way we own it more, and the clinical staff, it will be theirs. So it's a better way of them taking it up. So yes, she's giving us all kinds of tools.
Okay.
But she's not just handing it over. She's
Right. No,
it's better to teach
yeah.
somebody to have them make it their own.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I understand that. It's wondering the space in between, you don't want to lose that.
Right.
Because
So
other
from
things start happening.
this to the next, they have some work to do.
Okay.
Some adjustment. And when she comes back, that's why she's coming back twice for 2 schools instead of doing 4 schools.
Okay.
She will check in to see how they've done. And then they'll try it again with another student.
Okay, thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but it sounds like she trains up the clinical staff and that filters down to
Right, and everybody can't be experts in everything, right? Classroom teachers have to be experts in a gazillion things, right? So they do the very best they can and we give them strategies. The classroom teacher was involved in it yesterday, but that was one teacher. But if we can get our clinical staff to be the experts, and when a teacher is struggling with a student that's having these particular behaviors, to have that capacity of knowledge in-house rather than, I mean, she's widely known expert, to have her come is amazing, but we can't always say we have this tricky child or tricky situation, can you come in? We want to build the capacity so we have in-house experts.
And just as a follow-up to that, I mean, probably a big ask, but it's such an important issue that sounds like she's gonna speak to the entire district at one
Yes.
point. Is there an opportunity for the school committee to sit in the back row and kind of out of the way?
Yes, in December, we'll make sure.
No,
you can come.
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Things have really changed.
What's
You
that?
wouldn't let them
No,
go?
I'm kidding.
I think if we asked for it,
Yes, very nicely.
But-
No, this is very important. Of course, we need to be involved.
Yeah, no,
I'm kidding. No, you need to see these things and understand how we're doing it. Yeah, it's a great idea.
I
Great.
have a question. So are the clinical staff, oftentimes involved in the data meetings where they're talking about student performance? And in other words, as you say, not everybody can be an expert, but I'm wondering
right,
how.
I believe so. I want to say, I know as a principal, the answer is, when I was a principal, the answer was absolutely yes. I think at the elementary level, there is either a school psychologist or adjustment counselor in those meetings. Middle and high might be a little trickier. They're more in the child study and the wraparound. Diving deeper on a child, the individual data meetings, I am not sure at the middle and high school level. I can find out.
And I can just imagine that
It plays,
we're talking about whether it's in the formal meeting or planning and
Yeah.
prepping for the day, you would have teachers and clinical staff
Yes.
would have those discussions on how to have a student better succeed. Whether it's a formal.
yeah, I don't know that they're formally in the data meetings, they might be, but at elementary, I'm pretty sure they are.
Go ahead.
The BC, what is the acronym?
Board Certified Behavior Analyst. Did I get it right?
Thank you.
Right.
Now, are they more like one-on-ones? Are they in a classroom, the same classroom all day, or do they hop around from class?
So we have three BCBAs. Do you want to talk?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's handle
So
it.
the question is, well, what does BCBA do? Yeah, so they're behavioral analysts. So, and they're trained, it's a rigorous training on this to look at behavior and perform functional behavioral assessments. Those are assessments that look at behavior, targeted behavior, and how to extinguish a non-preferred behavior and how to replace that with a more appropriate behavior. So typically their work is done with kids with severe autism, and high functioning autism, and also could extend out to kids that are exhibiting some behavior with an emotional disability. Really their focus, how I am rechanneling their expertise to our district programs and kids that who have autism.
Okay, great, okay.
I just want to add a couple more things on this is, so as, maybe Bill with this, I'm not quite sure. As you know, the Gloucester schools are also reflecting what we've seen across the board, in schools. And that means that schools continue to reflect the larger society's, change towards like worse behavior, disruptive behavior, and social behavior, harmful behavior. That's happening in our society, okay? But that's also reflected in our schools. Really have seen as we've talked to you and documented with you and also got involved in negotiations around behavior and our staff's concern about behavior. So something we've been working and talking with you quite a bit. So this is one of the outgrowths of that. We talk about our behavior support teams that are happening in schools. We talked about behavior therapy programs. And what's really great about this approach with Jessica Minahan is that it can touch many of these pieces. Supporting the clinical staff to help others. And that's and then also there's sort of different levels of that very in depth with them, but also then less in depth, but really education with all staff around the concepts here and some of the tools to also support all students as well. So it's a really good example of what we try to do and we've talked about, which is clarity on high quality approaches with our staff, okay, and then support on how to do them well, then expectations and accountability for doing them fully. So that, that clear expectation, that support to know what it is, and then really follow through. This is just another good example of that, and really learning from staff about what their needs are. Responding. We appreciate this. Really came out of work, both listening to some principals. I mean, staff listening, working with their principals, working with their staff talking to Mike and Amy Cam. Amy Cam then talking about together, a lot of alignment on it. That's and particularly Mike Titus and Jody has quite an experience with working Jessica Manningham. So there's really sort of a ground up sort of looking for different approaches. This is Jessica Manningham, as Amy has said, and it's really top. Great, thank you, Amy. So we started a parent led group, sort of actually jointly led, I should say. I organized it with GPS leaders, so Mike Titus, Amy Cam, and John Ferrella, but then also Department of Health. Kelsey Goldstein Wall on it, and then also a lot of parents have stepped up to lead, or we're now calling Healthy Screens, Healthy Kids. And the idea is helping families navigate a balanced digital life for them. And one of the reasons I've been trying to start this with families is because we continue to see, understandably, that raising kids in a fully digital world is very different, very complicated. Parenting, it's always been complicated. It's never been easy. But these days, some issues, some challenges with digital, cell phone, social media, high tech is making it even more complicated. And we believe that working with families, that families can, and health and our schools can help other parents. We really want to be a resource for them. We're in the beginning stages still, but enough to have a logo and a name and a motto or catchphrase. But trying to work on both tech and in the community. So families at home first off, and seeing if we can support and build a network of families to support each other. Then also looking at the schools as well. We've been thinking about and looking at the level of use of Chromebooks, and have a couple of places in the district, particularly 5th grade at Beeman, who are sort of stepping back from that. And also dialogue with parents about wanting to step back, and dialogue among staff about wanting to step back some. And sort of, like we often do in life, we try things, we try them out, learn from them, and then we adjust. And so I think there's and so this group was also going to be part of that work. So thinking through how can we be more balanced in terms of tech and screens in school as well. So again, just wanted to share with you something we've gotten off the ground. And that's a great group of folks who are helping. We made a sort of first public appearance outside of our organizing meetings at Power of Play, we'll talk about in a moment. And we're giving out 4 different tips for families about raising kids in the digital world. And so we're also inviting folks to come and join.
So our next meeting is,
thank you very much.
Yes, is on, I'm a part of this group, is April 7th, is that right?
April 9th, it should be a Tuesday. Tuesday.
We generally meet at the East Veterans School.
If it's April 9th, I think.
Okay, it's a Tuesday, whatever.
So it's April 7th.
You're right.
So it is April 7th. Okay, so April 7th is our next meeting. Usually they're at 5 p.m.
5:30.
5:30 p.m. at East Veterans School. And we really do have a very, I would say, powerful and committed group of parents and educators, and we really welcome people to join us.
Yes. And we'll be sharing those 4 tips on social media, and also getting out more invites to the meeting on April 7th as well, all families. So just beginning that, and really feel that the group can, we really want to support parents supporting parents. So,
I'm wondering, not only social media, but maybe sending an emails to all
Yeah,
families,
yeah.
getting that out, because a lot of families aren't on social
Absolutely.
media, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal, right?
How we're going to share the information.
So sending out a
Balance.
weekly or monthly or whatever, every time they meet, here's the 4 tips of the month or something like that.
Yeah, we've been sending out an email as well. Haven't any calls yet, but yes, absolutely.
And you have the case that we came to a decision today, holding Facebook
Yeah.
and Twitter accountable for the algorithms now, so we're at a very pivotal point.
They lost the case in LA.
Yeah.
Meta and YouTube.
Twitter, there's a bunch of technology groups that have been found liable for algorithms and all the unhealthy distribution of information that's coming from. So this is a very pivotal time, so it's a great time to take this with that decision
And then that's part of the, that's part, I mean, that's great. I mean, we can't wait to learn more about that decision, obviously very important decision. But that's really what, everyone has come to learn more and more about, how purposely they're designed to be unhealthy that way. And also more learning about the harm that they're causing. And then, it's hard to know what to attribute. We see the harm, but we don't know, I think, the impact of it fully. How much it impacts, whether it's families or kids or schools.
Tomorrow night is the evening of excellence. And there's will be a lot of traffic coming through O'Malley, and I'm just wondering, is there a way that I can get this logo? I'd be happy to put that logo and like, hey, this is the next time that this group is getting together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah, we got.
We have some.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have more handouts.
Yeah.
So if you can email Kelly Coy and then copy me, I'll be less helpful on this. Tonight sometime, we'll get right on. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a letter. Like that.
Yeah.
Great, that's a big help.
I love your logo.
We're
adjusting logo.
Yes, we are gonna be.
Okay, but still, it's.
Draft logo. Yes, draft logo, good concept, right, for logo? Yeah. Okay, American Exchange Project. This is, I think this is our 4th or 5th year now. Something I helped get going early on, when no one else in the state was doing it for Wellesley, and they're not doing it anymore, just us. But the American Exchange Project helps graduating seniors have life-changing experiences. And they do that because their goal do that by creating exchange programs to other communities, for high school seniors, graduating high school seniors, to other communities around the country. And their goal is to connect people across difference. So different cultures, different languages, different communities, different parts of the country. This year we've got 9 kids doing it. Georgiana Cathers, Isla Black, Jared Rodriguez, Ty Jones, Miley Town, Sean Buckley, Shia Goodrich, Zachary Poole, and Zachary Soundis. I don't know the places they're going. It might actually be in my email. From their sign. Well, if you can read them, you can announce them. But we have travel reveal day now, so that was on the 19th. And then we also host students from other communities in Gloucester. Matt Anderson, high school teacher, organized it. He's the local organizer for this. And it's tremendous. He gets host families. We still need host families. Getting out more communication about that. But to host the folks who come from other communities. But it's really a life-changing experience, and every year 8 to 10 of our kids go. It's exciting.
I can't read them all. Some of the places are Utah, Ohio, Georgia. There's 2 signs I can't read on the picture in California.
Great. Beeman, 5th grade play, hosted at or performed at the Gloucester stage, is tomorrow night and Friday night at 7 p.m. It's Shrek the Musical for families and children age 6 and up. It's a short performance, so it's good for young kids and all sorts of humans.
It's at 6.
It's at 6.
It is at 6.
It's at 6. Sorry about that. It's at 6 p.m.
It is at 6 p.m. and both nights are sold out at this point, which apparently has never happened before. But I'm sure, anyway, I'm sure there's something.
Trying to sneak people in.
Yeah, I'm sure people in like
stand in the back.
Yeah, but it's
That's fantastic.
yeah, no, it's never sold out ahead of time.
And again, this is when we begin sort of traditions and events that we have every year. So East Badlands Elementary is also going this weekend. They have in-school performance on Thursday, tomorrow, but then also Friday night and Saturday during the day. 55 students, including 5th graders and some 4th graders, I hear, because they wanted lots of animals and they needed more animals, so they went down to 4th graders animals. It's like So they're going to perform on Friday and Saturday. National Honor Society induction, which we do annually, was last Thursday. I think it's 38 new members were inducted. Great ceremony that was led by their officers. And then also there are always four awards, one each for the four pillars of the National Honor Society: leadership, service, scholarship, and character. You can see Jefferson DeCarmo earned the leadership award. He's also the president of the Honor Society. Esme Saruf earned the service award. I believe she's the secretary. Sean Buckley earned the scholarship award, and Ruby McLaney earned the character award. It's a great work by all these folks who are newly inducted, of course, also the award winners as well.
And congratulations to Ms. Mettering.
Oh, yes.
For her final NHS induction ceremony.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, Brand Menery, a long time high school language teacher, has been the advisor of the Honor Society for many years, and there are some tears saying thank you to her during the last election cycle. We really appreciate her leadership and love. Gloucester High School, so our wellness advisors hosted the GHS blood drive. You can see there in the field house. So an annual event. We appreciate their support of that and their leadership on that. DECA. Oh, I can never remember what DECA stands for. Oh,
Distributed education.
Right there, right there. Congratulations to our DECA club members, Distributed Education Clubs of America. Okay, so a national sort of business entrepreneurship club that we have here at the high school. They place 6th at states and they qualify for internationals. Internationals are happening. But 20 members traveled to Boston for the states, the state career development, and Gloucester DECA president Julian Nixon was awarded 2 scholarships at state. So it's fantastic, great for them. Looking good there on the right-hand side of Boston. We'll find out where internationals are. Field trip. Gloucester High School track. So they, as you know, because you had a special meeting to approve their trip down to New York City, did very well. Their sprint medley relays finished up on the weekend 22nd and 14th place finishes, and had a fantastic experience getting down to New York City. Some of them went last year as well, so I'm not sure which of our students had their first experience in New York City, but that's always fun. Great work also in our art program at the high school. So Gloucester High School Photography, as one of our student leaders mentioned today, 6 students have been selected to showcase their work at a photography exhibition at Marvel Arts Association through the Students' Lens 2026 exhibition. You see from Gracie Serafine on the left there, and Cole Mosley Wynn is photographed on the left as well. And then the other 4 folks, Shane Whitfeld at the bottom, picture of the greasy pole. That's not the typical shot of the greasy pole. It's great. Jocelyn Madalena, Pond of Fish. Emma Longo in Lighthouse. And then right, Naya Bergoglio with a really great shot highlighting this contrast there. Titled An Important Piece, which is a great thing for that. So, and then the power of play. It's been going for many years, had a little halter in COVID, but is back in force for its 3rd or 4th straight year. And just a great non-digital approach to learning and playing and having lots of fun. So just really appreciate the Gloucester Education Foundation, the Canadian Saving Bank, the Sawyer Free Library, and all of our students and parents who volunteered made today possible. So tremendous leadership from Jessica Margiotta and also Emily Siegel, but also GF as a whole. They're putting on a fantastic Sunday for so many members of the community. Appreciate it. And then Rock of Ages, our teen edition is coming to Gloucester High School, being put on by our drama department. As you can see there, April 9th, 10th, 11th, 2 performances on the 11th. And it's a Tony Award nominated Broadway musical, and it features a lot of bands that kids these days don't know about, but probably should.
The music is awesome.
It's a great show. Yep. Night Ranger, R.A. Speedway, Pat Bernhardt, Twisted Sister Journey, and many others. but it is a great version of our Aegis. So there we go. That's a few of the things that are going on in our schools over the past couple of weeks. Any questions on it? Okay. Now we'll get into the transition plan for the superintendent. So in your packets, on the online pack has all this, but what we gave you was the first couple of slides of this, and then the full plan, which you had since our last week. Just to sort of go over it, we're in great shape on this transition from Ms. Pasquarello. That'll be official come beginning in July. But we have some significant advantages. One, Amy's extensive experience inside Gloucester and knowledge of the schools and district operations and how we work, having led much of it. But also, I think even more, as importantly, are her longstanding, very respectful relationship she's built with so many stakeholders. I mean, just as it says here, transportation staff, IT staff, school committee members, principals, our educators, in every single school. One of the things I think is really the best in many ways is she knows many of the students. I can't go to a middle school or high school with Amy and not have students stop her and say hello, Ms. Pasquarello, and sort of thing. That's a big deal for a superintendent to have to starting off.
It's the best part of my job.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's a huge advantage for all of us and for the district as a whole. Because Amy's been involved in so many pieces of the school and district leadership, and the learning curve will not be nearly as steep as, say, a guy who started with COVID from out of the blue. And that's, again, a huge advantage. And also because of that, the flip side of that is not many real gaps in knowledge of how things operate. That's really important. That also allows us to prioritize continuity. So often you will always have in transitions some sort of stepping back or slowing down or reactivating or renewing or just resistance or having a natural aversion or skepticism of change. Okay, because of Amy's her ability, capabilities, and knowledge, that doesn't have to happen. Keep moving. Okay? We need to keep moving, progress maybe more rapidly. So and it'll make some differences, some changes in academic achievement. So that's really helps as well to continue the momentum and really sort of say here, and I think this is a great way of putting it, ensure that we have results-oriented leadership from day one. And still though, even that we have all of the advantages, and Amy will talk more about this in a moment, it still requires a full entry process. So one of the things that all superintendents do across this Commonwealth, supported by the Mass Association of School Superintendents, is an entry plan. And that's ultimately a process of learning about the district and learning about the challenges and that sort of thing, and then coming forward with a report about ongoing direction. And we will still do that. A couple of things just in terms of the purpose of the transition plan. Really, it's to ensure that Amy's ready to go from day one. It's designed to help build trust and assure folks that the transition will be smooth, and then really minimize concerns that naturally happen in transition. Will we keep going? Will we change? Who's this person? That sort of stuff. But I really want to help people know that we've got a concrete, actual plan to help the transition. And now, for the rest of this, I'll transition Ms. Pasquarello to do the rest of the presentation. I was pretty excited about that segue.
Beautiful, really nice.
Really nice.
You're so excited. Tell me about it this morning. So this plan is built on three basic things: collaboration, communication, and clarity. Just to make sure that we're very open and transparent. There's tremendous collaboration that's going on between Superintendent Lummis and myself on a daily basis, ongoing, and meeting with other stakeholders. I'm being part of many, many committees, more and more as the spring goes on. So there's a lot of collaboration happening. Communication, so this is part of communicating to you about the transition, but also to the greater community, and to continue building relationships with staff, students, and families. I know a lot of people, I don't know everybody, and I still want to learn from people and hear more about their stories and how we can work together to better the lives of our students. So just because I'm here doesn't mean I definitely do not know everything. Might have oversold a little bit. And then clarity, to make it very clear of what this transition is going to look like. And so the purpose of this plan is to really lay it out to show what this plan will look like. Next slide. So we're focusing on 5 key areas. 1, expanding and deepening relationships. 2, hiring for key roles across the district. 3, the FY27 budget development. 4, operational understanding. And the last one is the initial work on the full entry plan process. I'm going to talk about more of that more on the next slide about that one in particular. Oh, well, all of these, but go ahead. So starting with expanding and deepening relationships. Being an inside person moving up has its benefits because I know a lot of people and I can step in. It also gives me an opportunity to get a jump start on some of the entry plan things that I would do if I was coming from outside of the district. I do want to be very clear that this is a jump start, I think, from now till June 30th. A full entry plan will be created and implemented in August and moving forward. We'll start in July into August. The superintendent mentioned something about it. I am a member of, I've just signed up for the NISIP, new superintendent induction program. In your packets, there's a flyer, 2 pages, that outlines it very clearly. But what it is a program that I will be, I already have been given a mentor that I will work at. I reached out and I gave it to me early. So I've already met with her 3 times. And I will continue with her throughout. There are many workshops and things that I'll do throughout the time. There's tasks that I will have to complete. I already attended one workshop on March 4th. I was invited because I was a superintendent, and it was about building relationships with school committees. So that was an interesting thing to go to, and I got some ideas. And so that was really great. But I just do want to point out that this is not my entry plan. This is like a pre-entry plan. And I will in the spring, and I won't go over all the dates, but on the right-hand side, it tells you when I might start doing some listening tours and listening to people, community members. I know people want to reach out. Those will be more purposefully towards May and June. I also want to be very mindful that I am still the assistant superintendent and I still have a very big full job to do. And there is a superintendent that is still doing his job. And so I don't want to muddy the waters. So the listening tours of community members and so forth will be later towards the end of May and into June. Just to make it more clear and less confusing for everyone. Hiring for key roles across the district. To date, the key role, wait a minute, build it up. To date, the key role that we had to hire for was to replace me, the assistant superintendent. And what we can do now is complete it. And I do want to just say, I was very much a part of that process. We collaborated. It was superintendent that recommended Kathy Tucker to you, but I was very much had say in that process, and we were that's collaborative. So that was part of the transition.
It was a joint stuff.
Yes. Budget development. That little tiny picture on the side. If you go to the next slide, you can show it up. This is not new. This is the budget timeline used every time Superintendent Lemmer shows the budget. I just want to reiterate that I have been part of every step of the process. I'm meeting with all the principals when he's meeting with them, all the department heads. I am in the conversations, so I'm very actively part of it. Fortunately, I think in my role as assistant superintendent the last 2 or 3 years, I've also been actively involved in the building of the budget. Not necessarily all the day-to-days. I'm now more involved in the day-to-day. So that's another part of me transitioning. Operational understanding. So this is a part, this is probably where I think my biggest learning curve will be. I have a very strong operational understanding of a building. I ran a building for 7+ years, and I have no problem running a building. Running a district, I am not naive, is going to be bigger. And in my role as assistant superintendent, I've run the curriculum, teaching and learning, assessments, all of those things. But I have not been into very many BNF meetings. PW meetings, operations meetings, and city manager meetings. I've been to a few. So if you see on the right-hand side, it states when I will start joining those meetings. I've already started coming to all BNF meetings. I am already joining the DPW meetings. And up next is operations and city managers. So that will be growing as we go. But I'm there to learn, to meet the people, to get ready to step into that role. I have weekly meetings with the superintendent. That has been since day one of me being an assistant superintendent. We've met weekly. Our conversations are a little different sometimes now about transition, but sometimes they're just the same conversations. I have things to talk about as assistant superintendent and he is, you know, but we are starting to have more conversations during those weekly meetings about the transition. Something I have not been on the superintendent side of is administrator contracts, renewals and annuals. I will be sitting in on that mostly to learn. So that's, I think I have a very good, lucky to have that ability to watch that process and go through it with somebody.
And also in terms of the renewals or not, that's happening, being agreeing together. I'm not deciding on rules unilaterally.
Oh, yes, I didn't mean to say that. I hadn't done the,
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because it's just, that can be a concern without going administrators. You're making decisions that are impacting folks on staffing or expenditures or stuff. And any of those things that are carrying into next year, like administrative contracts, we've
had conversations, we'll continue to have conversations about what that might look like going forward. Operational understanding continued. The statement of interest, I've gone through the building process as a principal. I have not done it as a superintendent. I'm actually very thankful that Ben has done the heavy lifting of writing the statement of interest right now, because again, I do still have my current role. I'm happy for him to do that, but I'm in the peripheral. I'm going to start leaning in and getting more of the process. It will be my role. So that's kind of I'm towing the line, but I will be leaning in more of that as the spring goes on. Unions is an interesting conversation because I'm very familiar with GTA and GATE. We meet monthly or regularly with them, depending on which one. I'm very familiar with them. I have not been part of a lot of Teamsters or Ask Me conversations. So I will start to be even just introduced to the presidents of it. Like I will start to do that this spring. And then the introduction of the ongoing weekly union business. Sometimes there's just things percolating that I'm not always privy to as assistant superintendent. Ben and I are having those conversations, so I have knowledge of what's happening around the district. Planning with executive assistant with Kelly Coy, that will begin in June as far as moving forward. And then I do have Carol Gregory coming in as a consultant to help me look at systems in general in July, just to give me a better understanding, because I am aware that this is a place I have to learn and I want to learn fast. So I already have her scheduled to come in early in July to kind of go through. I'm going to show her what I know. She's an expert in just how schools run, and she'll come in and give me some support on that. Did you skip one?
No. Let me just let me add here, because I know it's not here. There's also the resources function, and that's an area actually that you know, except for a couple of things you mentioned that Amy is very well versed in, because it's something that we both are constantly working on. You know, originally Amy, you know, from the principal lens, super helpful, and she continues to support principals. But now, you know, we just do we both do a lot of that. And that might be hiring, that might be, you know, just job postings, that might be some challenges or some difficult situations that we might face, you know, with the staff of 600 plus that are resource related. So Amy and I both do all of that together with HR staff, with, you know, Roberta Easton, Nate Palmer, and Gina Merrow. So that's this place you don't see on here, because that's a place I don't think there are gaps, honestly, because some of you
I didn't even notice we didn't put it on there, because I feel pretty confident.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that doesn't mean I know everything. But I, you know, progressive discipline and all of the hiring and firing, I work with principals on the regular on how to coach up staff, or it's disciplinary, but yeah. Initial planning. So this is that entry plan I talked about. So this is a transition plan and there'll be an entry plan. The entry plan I will start to write, and I'll actually start with my jump start of listening sessions. I'll start to gather data. My coach, Cindy Tamor, who's the SIP coach, will guide me through that. It's a very strong protocol. If I ever met somebody that's more of a go-getter than myself, it's her, so we're gonna watch out. Yeah, she's got big plans for me on this, and we will write it over the summer. The intent is to present what the plan is to you as a committee in August meeting. That doesn't mean I'm gonna have any findings. That means I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do to get findings, and then we will take that traditional 90 to 100 days of gathering data and coming up with a plan. And then probably mid-year next year, I will come to you and share what my plans are. And those plans could be, I don't know what they'll be from my listening sessions, from all my things. I have many ideas. I don't want to predict what they're going to be yet because I need to hear from all the stakeholders. I need to get input from, teachers and paraprofessionals and principals and department heads and families and students and all of it. So, community members, everybody. So, when we get there, I'll have very clear guidelines of where we might make changes or shifts and where we're going to go. I've been part of the district for a long time. I'm very proud of where we are, but I haven't been part of it as a superintendent. So there might be changes, and it doesn't mean I think what we've done is wrong. It means I will be differently than that just because I'm a different person. And from that entry plan, we'll come up with a plan that I will present to you probably mid-year next year. The ability to tell me what you think. So that will happen. And then also, obviously, the consultation with my coach has already begun. And she is on it. I can tell you that. She's got me going already. I have tasks and homework. Fun. Questions for me? Oh, there's one thing I feel like I missed. Can we go back to this building relationship? Sorry. And I think this is important, particularly for the audience that I'm in front of right now. I went through the expanding and deepening relationships. I want to take a look at the stakeholders. So stakeholders, teachers and staff, building leaders, district leaders, students and families, CPAC, LPAC, PTO board, GTA, but also school committee members. I want to assure you, so I'm another part of coming from within. I look at all of you, and I've known some of you for over a decade. I've had the privilege of teaching, leaving school of your children or your grandchildren. I've had the privilege of all of that. And I've had deep, treasured relations with many of you. Some of you, I'm not pointing on.
No, I don't care. I'm glad she had you for a principal. So. Good.
And those of you I don't know as well, I'm really looking forward to getting to know you. And I know that relationship's going to take time. I also know that just because you knew me as your grandchild or your child's principal, you have no idea how I'm going to be as a superintendent. So we need to work together, and you need to get to know me even better. And I do intend to have one-on-one meetings with each of you. Again, as this shows, it won't be until May or June. If you really want earlier, we can talk and we'll figure something out. But I will meet with each of you individually. We get the cadence that you feel comfortable. I have already started meeting weekly with Ben and Kathy as the chair. I think I've been to 2 or 3 of those. So that has already started as one of the things. So I do realize that even I'm not taking for granted that, oh, I had your kid, we're fine. We need to get to know each other even better, and I will work on that. Okay. And I can't believe I skipped that one. That's fine.
I'm glad you remembered. I think as we were talking about this, 4 of you had a child, child at East Gloucester, and Amy was there.
Miss Neville.
Yeah, she came.
I missed him by 1 year.
Oh, I know that. Okay.
It might be literally the time they started.
I had them all 6 years. Yep.
Let's just go back quite a ways.
Mhm. I think so. Maybe 4. I didn't have her. So I had her in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
2nd grade on. Yeah.
So I'm glad you went back to that slide, because it's the issue that I raised over the weekend. We are in a very unusual circumstance here. Ben announced he was going to retire nearly a year ago, and the school committee at the time immediately did a search internally only and picked you, which was wonderful. And I'm not saying anything against your qualifications. That school committee is, almost half of them are no longer here. The most important thing that we do here is have a relationship with you, the elected officials who represent our customers, and not only the people who have kids in the schools, but all the people who pay for the schools. The relationship that we have with you and vice versa is probably the most important relationship there is. So three of us were not involved in the hiring of you, not trying to second guess any hiring decisions. But I'm saying the process of hiring you for school committee members went deep. For instance, you could have the conversation about, Amy, what is your vision if you became the superintendent? Those kind of conversations. For three of us, we haven't had that. Some of us have not had kids in the Gloucester school, so we don't have that relationship. I've known you for a while in some capacities, but I also don't know you as a school committee member and the incoming superintendent. So the point that I was raising over the weekend is, can we do something that mirrors the conversations that you had with the school committee when you were hired? For those of us who weren't here and we're not privy to those conversations. That's what I'm asking for. So somewhere along the line and sooner rather than later, that we are able to have that.
So our individual meetings, I'm happy to answer all of those things, all those conversations.
Good.
And
very important.
And I acknowledge, I have known you, I feel like a long time back in the school East Gloucester
we
project.
did the debt exclusion together.
We did the debt exclusion together. So we have known each other for a long time, but I do acknowledge that I didn't spend as much time with you or know you as in depth as I might have with others. And I very much look forward to fostering that relationship and talking to you and answering questions about my vision, because we talked a lot about debt exclusion and you knew my thoughts about, you know, having a healthy and clean environment for teachers to teach in and for students to learn in.
And for employees to work in.
But we didn't talk about academics and my expectations for growth. I'm happy to have those conversations with you.
So I just want to take a step back on something you said about us having quote unquote conversations with Amy about her being superintendent. We, the school committee, had a very public process. We individually did not have conversations with Amy during that process. It was as a committee that interviewed her in public. And so you're characterizing it as conversations as if
that's a conversation in my book. And yes, you did it in public. And yes, you were the school committee who did it. Some of us weren't on the school committee when that happened. That's a whole different thing, Kathy. I'm not suggesting anything about public or private or anything like that. I'm talking about substance and I'm talking about collaboration. And we must have that or we will not approve.
Yeah, well, I completely agree.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from your email, I took it that you wanted 3 people to meet with Amy because they were part.
No, I wanted a recognition that the 3 of us aren't on the same page that you are, because you guys went through that as the interviewing body.
Well, yes, but we also interviewed them as a body back then.
Oh, yeah, I'm going far away. I'm talking about what's happening
all I'm saying is there were 7 of us that hired Ben, but once Ben started, he had individual conversations with each of us. It didn't happen during the interview process. It happened once he took over. So this would be the same. No one has access to any more access to Amy. Yeah, we may have history. We have done more work and been part of a lot of initiatives, learning and the whole thing. But that's with her as an assistant superintendent. So when she is taking this step to become the superintendent, we're going to have different, one-on-one of what's important to each of us, right? That's what Ben, when we met, asked what's important. I think we could kind of get a sense to where our passion or interest lies. Some people like my background is finance. I might talk more about that than what other people might talk. So that is the expectation of that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Go ahead, Heather.
I like, this is great, by the way, and you know that I'm a big fan. Both my children still think you're a superhero. But so the expanding and deepening relationships and the fact that you have the teachers and staff on here and the students and families, I think that a lot of them really are looking to be more heard and know more about what's going on and that sort of thing. And maybe you've done this in the past, I'm not sure, but like some kind of like a survey monkey. We get to hear the best of the best from the people that come and sit down here. But something that's maybe a little, and again, this is just something, I don't know if we could actually see it as school committee, but a survey monkey to see how teachers really do feel in the classroom. I'd be curious to see, again, in front of their bosses, of course, everything was sunshine and roses, but like how do they feel supported in their classrooms and that sort of thing. I just would be curious. Again, this would be up to you entirely, and if you wanted to share it with school committee, but have you guys ever done anything like that?
No, we've not done a sort of survey of staff, not that way.
Parents, no.
But part of the listening tour, I'd certainly be listening to how people feel, whether they choose to share it with me or not,
Yeah.
something, they're probably I'm assuming, and I haven't built a plan yet, but I'm assuming there'd be some sort of community way to give feedback. That might be a survey. So that's all work that I'm gonna be doing over the summer with my coach on building that, and so that's good feedback to think about.
The closest thing, not a survey, but something I did last spring, very purposely, was to meet with, kind of office hours at every school, where I was there for a couple of hours and folks would drop in, but then also met with some staff as well after that. So those are all conversations with staff, and those were very helpful to me, obviously, but also I got good response of how people appreciated that. I'm not done this year. It's something Amy, I think, will pick up as well. In addition to maybe, probably the value of the surveys can be much broader. Those conversations, those direct conversations were very, very helpful last year.
Go ahead. Just want to say I'm super excited about this plan and what's to come. I know you mentioned maybe a 90 or 100-day plan, which is expected when someone takes a new position in leadership. But for those that may think that that's a long time away, it's pretty clear that your influence is already here in day one. Your plan might not be in place, but your influence over the decisions that are being made now, because you're working together, will start day one. So I think that's one of the great benefits of hiring from within, is all that is going on right now. And I'm very appreciative of the collaboration that's going on now, because it's a huge head start. And when new superintendents come in and say, I want to be ready day one, there's no doubt that you're going to be ready day one. You might not have all the answers yet, but because of the work you're doing now, you're working 1.5 jobs right now. So that is very much appreciated, and I'm happy to hear that you have someone that's challenging as a coach, because I can't imagine that happening, but I'm sure it will show in the leadership style that you have, and very excited, looking forward to that when you're ready to come on.
Let me hit you up with a tough one. Well, first of all, I want to say, I appreciate that when we are together, I always point out the kids that went to East Gloucester.
I'm so proud of them. I'm proud of all Gloucesters.
Well, I'm picking up those West.
Ones I've known since like kindergarten, they can't help it.
Let me give you the tough one first. You mentioned operational understanding might be your, I want to say, soft spot or difficult right off the bat. Okay. Yeah, and I really thought, like, it seems like recently, not recently, but we're really striving for operational excellence and efficiency, which the mayor has talked about. Let's be efficient in our processes. I mean, what do you see as some sort of safety net for that? If you're coming in and saying, well, the operational side of things might be a bit of a challenge for me, or a little bit knowledgeable about it. How do you see that unboxing itself? Because it's not like a stagnant thing, it's constantly.
Yeah, so efficiency and systems, I would kind of put them close together, closely related. If you have good systems, you're gonna be more efficient. And that's something I want to look at right away. That's why I have a consultant coming in. I think it's July 6th. It's like the week after, it might be later in that week, I don't remember, but it's the week after 4th of July. To help me with that, because I know it's something that I want to help improve. And it's something that I think I did fairly well at a building level, a very small building, but I think I did it well at a building level. And I recognize that that's gonna be, the system that worked in a very small building is not necessarily gonna work in a whole district. So I'm actively seeking counsel and support and how to look at systems in a bigger way. Because you can have somebody that is very efficient at their job and gets that email back to you right away and gets your answer right away. And then if they are out sick one day, the whole department falls apart because there's no system to catch up what there is. And so that's something I'm gonna look at quickly to help make sure that we can see what we do have in place, because we do have some nice systems, and what we have systems we can emphasize or tweak or improve. And how am I gonna do that? I recognize that I need a little outside support, and I've already said that. I'm not afraid to ask for help or children.
Yeah.
Those are some, that's, as Amy said, that's continuation work that's happening behind, that has been happening behind the scenes, and we have a good way to go. That's on HR in terms of, hiring, but also onboarding, about, how we outreach and how we do job fairs. Finance, that's our position control we're working on. That's in special education about our process of evaluation assessment. So those are things that, again, we're working on and made some progress and have two ways to go. And I really appreciate and support Amy's decision making to tell Gregory to help with that, because it really is, as she described, systems help everyone know, again, it's expected of them, how to get it done, and how to do it really well, or thoroughly. We've got some ways to go.
Yeah. The good part was towards the end of your statement, you said, we as a school, we have no idea, and I think you were kind of paraphrasing, but we have no idea what kind of superintendent you're going to be. Well, not a job, a tool in the shed, but I got a pretty good idea. And I think it's, you don't get hired unless we think you do a great job. That's the reality of it. The other thing that I think needs to be noted is that, present company included, the district is full of great leaders and people that can support you on the special education front. Our recent hiring of our assistant superintendent couldn't have been any more impressive, and I think that really sets you up. Most good leaders have great people around. You certainly have that. So I got a pretty good idea. So we'll let that fall.
I hope you're right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, so moving on, on to the Beaman Plum Cove, and we're lucky to have principals Jody and Jude with us tonight online there. Going to go through a few things, and first of all, the goal here is to submit an application so that we can be accepted into the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So we say MSBA a lot in the next few weeks. Massachusetts School Building Authority eligibility phase. Okay, so we're applying to be in the eligibility phase. Do that through a mechanism called submitting a statement of interest. Okay. So you've heard sort of the basic background about this, but we're going to go pretty in depth, and you have the drafts with you as well. I'm not going to go through each piece of those because they're 20 plus pages. But I'm going to give you first sort of the big picture and then get into specifics, step by step.
Can I second question? Sure, just an overall question. Yes, from the application that we had in our packet, it is not. I'm assuming that still has to be gone over.
Yeah, it's something gone over. It's also submitted online, so it's got to be. So what you see there isn't actually how we do it. It's the drafting of it, but no. And so just to sort of give you, for tonight, you have a sort of first review. You'll have, I'll go through the details. Then the group will vote on it 2 weeks from now. Okay, and you're going to submit it. Okay, approval to submit it. You submit it. And I'll go through also city council schedule too. But no, there's continued to be work done on it and revisions of it and that sort of stuff, and on-tube code and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, because there were things that
no problem. So just to, again, I'm going to start on the big picture. The whole process with MSBA is 8 modules. Okay, we're not even in the first module. We're trying to get into this first module. To do that, we need to submit statements of interest by April 17th. Okay, We don't hear about whether we go into the first module, the eligibility period, until December. Okay? It's not like, not December the latest, like that's when they're helping December, that's not before that. They have a whole process of reviewing each submission down there, which includes site visits and like that. Okay? You'll see that there are different, 8 different modules here, 7 through construction. It takes 7 to 10 years before a building is complete. Once you get into the eligibility phase, we're not even there yet. Okay. At the same time, so that's the big picture. Okay, this is just their graphic and the different components of it. It's just a graphical version, which it's kind of hard to read of the slide before. But again, typically 7+ years to actually build a school. Okay. So now I want to talk about the statement of interest, okay, and what it really means. So pre-phase 1 statement of interest. So we submit both of them, separate statement of interest for each school. Okay, by the way, I do have copies of them here if you want printed copies to take with you. Not for anybody, but I can get you the printed copies to review as well. Copies. Timeline, again, we won't know until December. If we're not accepted, must reapply every year. So we are, okay. And then again, submitting the SOI is the critical first step. We won't go anywhere unless we submit statement of interest. And then the other piece is what happens after that. So I'll go through eligibility phase much later if you want some more details on that. But tonight is going to focus on that. But just also, if we get into eligibility phase, that's no guarantee of anything. Okay, and the MSBA really wants us and you and the community to know that. Because they don't want people to believe that once you get into eligibility phase, then you're automatically going to build the building. No way, shape, or form. And the community also will have community, school committee, and city council have steps along the way for them to decide when we proceed or not. So some folks are concerned, like, we get on the train and we're gone, and that is not the case at all. So first of all, we don't automatically get into phase 2. Okay, that's first of all at least a 9-month process. There's no guarantee that we get into the capital pipeline at all. Okay. And also, if we don't get through the eligibility phase, which is 9 months long at least, then we have to begin again. And we'll talk through as we go along the different phases. But for now, really just focus on the fact that even getting into the eligibility phase is not guaranteed we move on after that. Okay. So here's the process to submit the SOIs. So drafting statements of interest with some support from the DPW. BNF reviewed drafts last week. Okay, you have the initial review tonight, and you have it with you. And then hopefully you will vote to submit, to authorize me to submit April 8th week from now. City Council has to do that as well. Okay, so because they have a longer process in terms of the way they not really longer, just their own calendar. We have to hit their calendar dates. The mayor was kind enough to put that on the city council agenda, so they referred to their BNF subcommittee, and that'll be heard just like we're talking about tonight on April 9th, with a full city council vote planned or hoped for at least on April 14th. And both those, so the school committee would vote first, and city council would vote on the 14th, and that would give us put us in the pipeline and then the time frame to submit April 7th. And that very similar to when we did this 10 years ago with Beeman and East Gloucester. No, actually, at that point, we submitted 2. One was from Beeman and East Gloucester, but we never submitted for veterans. And I'll actually explain that a little bit because the process of the eligibility phase is determined, eligibility and feasibility, sorry, the first 2 phases, is determined what the best solution for the district is. Okay, and that's how come it went from possibly Beeman site or East Gloucester site to a very long process of looking at a whole bunch of factors to the best one being had veterans site and combining these veterans and veterans in East Gloucester. Because we're submitting 2 again, and this time hoping for consolidation, that will be that'll also be part of the process. Where, how big, what kind, is it renovation or rebuilding? That all happens through the eligibility phase and the feasibility phase.
I also add,
Yeah.
we submitted both East Gloucester and Beeman because of the conditions of the buildings. That's what's driving everything and has driven the order of which we did West Parish and East Gloucester and took that opportunity to combine with veterans because it made economical and educational sense. And now Beeman and Cove are our last 2 schools. So from the MSBA perspective, it's which schools are worse, and then you win if you get a veteran.
And to point out, when we put that forward, Beaman and East Gloucester, I believe, were equally worse. And we had to decide which one we wanted to do, we were approved for either one of them at the time.
You chose the one that had a river. in it.
I think we had to state which one would be our priority.
Yes, yeah, and we do here as well, and Beaman will be the priority, and that's really for the most part because of the land there.
Right.
You know, if the city eventually decides to build at Beaman, would need swing space, and that is a gigantic advantage, okay?
Or even look for land.
Right, we would have,
If
right.
we had to.
Yeah. But anyway, that's, one thing I didn't do in this presentation, I'm glad you brought it up, Kathy, is just a history behind it. So I'll talk more about that as one of the reasons that we're pursuing this. I mean, it's a very important part of, not history, it's the plan, okay? Even with the plan that was really decided on, you know, in essentially 2014 and really voted on in 2016. So we'll get to that. So then, in terms of rebuilding Beaman Plum Cove, and Kathy, a nice segue in this, it's when, not if. These two schools will be rebuilt at some point, in some capacity, some way. And I want to show you, this is why Principals Ginodi and Jewett aren't on here to add. Because we've been working on this and they've been reviewing the priority 7 here on why we're doing this, and they'll add some details here. But ultimately, what everyone has to realize and really has to get their heads around, and this was the same case about 10 years ago when we first applied for Beaman, is that both schools are substandard, they're outdated and inadequate. Beaman was built in 1955, that makes it 71 years old. Plum Cove was built in 1966, made 60 years old, okay? The modulars are a very significant part of the building. Okay, 50% of the classrooms at Plum Cove are modulars, even 33% of them are. And that's significant because they were actually purchased used. Installed in 2008 and also in 14. Okay, they were, when I got here, in failing condition. Mike Hale, the public works director, told us that again and again. And with the leadership of the school committee and support of the city council and city, with COVID dollars, we were able to refurbish them. And prior to that, they were animals could get in and lived underneath and in the ceiling tiles. They were leaking, the HVAC were failing. They were in really bad shape. And that refurbishing it or renovations was purposeful to make sure they could last up to 8 to 10 more years, because we knew that they were next in line to deal with. Okay? But those modules are going to fail. Okay? They essentially failed once, and we saved them. But they are past their useful life and won't be able to be resurrected again. The spaces are substandard, inadequate, they're insufficient. So I'm just going to go through a few of these, and I'm going to pause and hopefully ask, Jody and Dan Jewett add some details, because I'll give you the sort of basics. Okay, the classrooms are smaller than typical classrooms. So if you're newer buildings, you see they're especially the original buildings. They're smaller than what we typically have these days because of the way we teach and the way we learn, and we do smaller groups and that sort of stuff, and divide kids, organize kids in different ways and different parts of the classroom, which is really well. Neither school has a library. The libraries are on their stages, which of course means for the most part they can't be used as stages. Okay, the gymnasiums are too small, the kitchen is too small, the gymnasium and the cafeteria are the same spaces, as well as the library. That really impacts programming, scheduling. Okay. The main office and principal's office are undersized and not confidential. Okay, you can hear too much what goes on in there. The special education program area at Beaman, not appropriate for a therapeutic approach. One thing I wanted to highlight, but it didn't, is I'm talking about the buildings right now. I'm not talking about the schools, the teaching, the staff. Okay, they're very different things. Our staff in both these schools and the leadership there are doing great work, very difficult circumstances. Okay, so I'm really talking about the buildings. Okay, and we'll make it work because school people always make it work. We have to every day. And then there's things that are worn out, damage, casework, walls, flooring. Those are all really lacking. This is insufficient space. So you had both buildings have space which were classrooms and now have been divided up. So what you'll see in at least 2 or 3 classrooms, or what were classrooms in both buildings, are multiple workstations and also tables for small group learning, tier 2 or tier 3 support. But what you have there is office space or meeting space and space for students. Typically, you can't have those in the same place because lack of confidentiality or just the noise. Some people are trying to get work done, some people are trying to support students, and they don't mix very well. Okay? It happens, we make it work, but it's far from ideal. Far from even good, honestly. And that typically is our support of most vulnerable learners. So special education, multilingual learners, kids who are in speech and language services. Let me pause there. Jody and Dan, if you have things to add, please do. Specifically, you can speak to your building specifically and really the day-to-day impact on teachers and staff and students. If you don't mind adding a little more detail to I sort of tried to capture across both your schools.
So as Ben said, we're definitely overcrowded in terms of, using areas for multiple things at one time. Specifically, I've crammed all of my special education and my ML teachers into one classroom, and they've divided that classroom up with bookshelves and dividers. They can clearly hear each other, and you can imagine how difficult that would be, especially for one that's trying to acquire the language and really needing to hear enunciation and pronunciation, and to have 4 different groups going on around you makes it a little difficult to learn the language. Same with our special education students who, if they're being pulled out, it's what we would consider to be C-grid service, and it's generally something that's different, very significantly different than what's happening in our classroom. And so often that's done either one-to-one or in a very small group of students, and really needs to be very targeted. And many of those students struggle to pay attention in larger spaces with a lot going on. So having 3 and 4 groups work around you would be much like trying to learn in a restaurant with tables having conversation right next to you. You could imagine how difficult that would be. We're pretty limited in what we can offer our students because our multi-purpose room is also our gym, is also our cafeteria. So we've really had to cut down on having assemblies, whole group assemblies, whether that be for a grade level or even a whole school. PTO used to be really active in bringing in different groups and different folks to kind of supplement what's going on in our curriculum. But that's proven to be so difficult in finding a time to get use of that room that we've really cut way down on that. And that's even at the grade levels, because I have 3 sections of a grade level. So piling them all into one classroom really isn't the way that you want to do that, even if you had an author just coming in to visit a grade level. Our library is on the stage, and we've made the best of it that we can. We've put everything on rolling bookshelves, but it requires a day's worth of custodians moving things, rolling up rugs if we want to do any presentation or use our stage for anything, like our concerts that happen twice a year. So that makes it difficult. And then obviously that drives my master schedule, because I have to figure out when gym classes can happen. That's not when lunch is happening. And really what should be driving my master schedule is the educational concerns that we have at school, not when gym can be in the cafeteria. It's just not the way to do business in school. Many of our classrooms, most of our classrooms don't have temperature control. So in the shoulder seasons, when we first get into school and at the end of the school year, if you're in the main part of the building, which is the majority part of the building, classroom temperatures in the afternoon can rise well into the low 90s, not conducive to learning at all. I walk down the halls and have cute little puddles just kind of melting on their desks. They're not really available for concentration or learning when it becomes that warm. That's also very uncomfortable and sometimes physically concerning to some of my teachers, depending on what their health background looks like. So those are just, a few specific examples of working in Beeman. It's a wonderful school, and we've done the best that we can do with it. I mean, honestly, in my 7 years, I would say that I have been as creative as I can be. There isn't a closet that I don't use for an office, including my own. I use, actually, backstage is a counselor's office, which is really like this little area where you would put kids in line to go on stage. And then there's the stairs that go down into the hallway, and we've redesigned that into a counselor's office. And I don't have as Ben said, I don't have private meeting spaces, including my own office. I can hear the therapist in the room right next door to me, which really isn't fair to her, and it's not fair to me because both of our jobs really lend themselves to needing a lot of confidentiality. You literally have to walk through another office to get to my office, which doesn't allow anybody any privacy that might like to just kind of slip in there quietly and speak to me without a lot of people knowing that they're in there. So that makes it difficult. I have one area that I made into a conference room that at best fairly fits 10 people. So depending on the size of a meeting, it would be difficult for me to put a group any larger than that together. And it's not even a private space. There are 2 areas that we built partitions for that are folks' offices. And if it needs to be something that's confidential, which IEP meetings need to be confidential, those folks cannot use their office space when those meetings are happening. So that's just a few examples of the restrictions that it puts on our ability to service kids in today's day and age. The building itself, even the classrooms, don't have the electricity that can support modern technology. So my classrooms have, if I'm lucky, 2 plugs. Some have only 1, literally, with two little outlets in them. And we have smart boards, projectors. We have PA systems for students with hearing impairments. We have, the need to charge Chromebooks, and all of that can't happen on 2 plugs. So, I hope the fire department isn't listening to me. May they block their ears, but it is, extension cord city, and that's not appropriate. And we know that that's not safe in general to use in buildings, but it's also not safe to have that strung and taped all around the room with students. It's just not appropriate. Questions about all that happy news I just gave you?
Breaking my, like, oh, this is terrible. And I'm like, 8 years, maybe in 8 years, you'll get something.
Thank you very much, Jody. I thank you very much, because I know all of that. I cannot begin to communicate in the way that you can. Dan, you've got some very similar stories, so please share it.
Yeah, well, as Jody said, I would say much the same in terms of those kind of general components. I think the part that I'd emphasize about Plum Cove is this.
Sorry, Dan, was that, can you get a little closer to your mic or speak up? It's hard to hear you.
Sorry. How's that? Is that a little bit better?
A little better, yes, thank you.
All right, so much the same as what Jody was saying. I think in terms of just creating some clarity about Plum Cove, outside of the classrooms, the grade level classrooms, we have 3 additional spaces outside of the gym. So if you include the gym, 4 spaces. So that means that within those 3 extra rooms, everybody who's not directly teaching a class, it means in one room, I have the art teacher, the music teacher, the speech teacher, the psychologist, and the special education coordinator. They all share one space. In a second space, I have the reading coach, the math coach, the ML teacher, the Title I paraprofessional, the OT, anybody doing kind of intervention, and the behavior paraprofessional all sharing a space. And in the final extra room, we have 3 special education teachers who are all trying to provide services to students, sharing a conference room. So if we have an IEP meeting, we have to either cancel those services or push into the classroom. But in this regard, we're very fortunate because our 3rd grade, there's an inverse bubble. So while Plum Cove has 2 sections at most grade levels, we only have 1 section at 3rd grade. And that's why we have 3 extra classrooms. In 2 years, when those students graduate, it means that we'll go down to 2 rooms, and those 14 extra people who are providing services will share those 2 rooms. And so I think one thing that it's important for people to understand is the fundamental way that education has changed since 1965 is you get more than just a teacher. We have special education teachers and OT and PT and speech and language, and all sorts of people who are doing really incredible work with our kids. And the school is just not configured in that way for those people. And so not only will we go down just to 2 extra rooms to support all those people, we will then likely rise another 20 students because those 3rd graders will leave and be replaced by 2 kindergarten classrooms, which would raise Plum Cove from 204 students a little over 2 years ago to we're at 230 now and be at 250 presumably when those students leave. So space is very tight. And I give our staff a lot of credit. They're flexible. They know what they've signed up for. They love their school as a whole. But again, the facilities themselves are different.
So that's just part of it, honestly. Because I think let me just show a couple more things here, which is, I mean, we have talked about the nurse's office, and both of them are tiny, and we go on and on. But there are a few other crucial pieces on this. Let me just continue sharing. So the piece is that we're going to have to have a system. Other than electrical, we have to have a system. So Plum has its original furnace, no backup heating. That's very rare for a building of these sizes. They have no backup heating. Either one has backup generator. About a week ago, I lived in the neighborhood and power went out at 1 a.m. I knew that if it didn't go on by around 5 or 6 a.m., that I would be calling another cancellation, or 6 this year, for those schools. And so that's something that it doesn't happen in places, in other schools, especially newer schools. Most schools have original wiring and electrical systems. There has been some changes in terms of some windows at Beeman were replaced, new roof at Beeman as well. But ventilation substandard in both buildings. It's not up to current standard. It is adequate, efficient. Okay, it doesn't pose any health risks, but it is not what we expect. And then ADA accessibility is limited at both places. Particularly Beeman, as you all know, you go up to this sort of like the second level, the second floor, versus up a level, half a level really. That's only accessible by a lift. That lift is being repaired now for the first time in over 10 years. Thanks to Jody Ginodi and Gary Frisch. It's not quite operational, but we're ready for one more part, and then it will be. But when earlier, I can't remember, it was this year or last year, a student was in a wheelchair because of injury, they had to be taken outside to get to the classroom. God forbid we have a student who is in a wheelchair, if they need to be, on a regular basis. But now we can serve that child, but up until now, we haven't been able to. So those are all substandard. Those also play out a few different other pieces. And we talked about the impact on core curriculum, Dan and Joe did on teacher efficacy. We talked about a lot of what we talked about is the impact on those vulnerable learners. Both places are trying to do additional support, extra support beyond tier 1 instruction, compromised and active spaces. Kids who need, I just think Jody describing, you're trying to learn a language, you need to hear the language, and it's very hard to get competing interest in doing that. Also impact on the scheduling constraints, whether it's the gym and the library with assemblies, which have a big impact on school community, whether it's having confidential meetings, and other people have to leave the room to have confidential meetings. Okay? This is something our school is dealing with every single day. And then just some basic things, but very important one, lack of staff privacy. Essential for phone calls and nursing mothers, we don't have dedicated spaces. These days, you're required to bring spaces for mothers. And our new buildings have those. Another piece on this about safety is just vehicle management. We know, especially with East Veterans is our best example of this, is when you build school buildings now, you want to have deliveries, student drop off and bus drop off in different places, different access areas. These schools like we used to build schools, have one, and that does create some safety challenges every single day, very honestly. The other piece on this is, on those systems, is renovations aren't really possible here, for two reasons. One is the systems I talked about, all very old. To get those back up to code, you would have to do that if renovations of any significance, are of a certain value, compared to the rest of the value of the whole building. Because you have a threshold in renovations that triggers code upgrades, code compliance.
30% of the value of the building.
Yeah, exactly. 30% of the
Which the
value.
building is not valued at much, so put that in perspective.
Right, true. So you actually hit that threshold for code compliance very quickly. And that means you've got to update ADA accessibility, fire, electrical, and others, and sometimes also structural code. Well, having to reach code compliance, if renovations triggered that, would make the renovations similar in cost, not or enough that you have to make a trade-off that isn't very different in terms of cost between full rebuild and renovations. The other piece, though, as I mentioned before, 50% of the classrooms at Plum are modulars and 33% at Beeman. As we already described, their useful life it will be over, and you have a countdown basically. And you can't rehab those; you have to rebuild. So that doesn't reach the material from the school. Again, it's not not when, it's not if. And I think that what most we can do to help people realize it's not if, it's when it's schools. Is what we really work on. Dan and Jody, anything to add before I get into statements of interest? Okay. So now that what means is how do we apply? So I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you. That would be tedious and fast. I just want to show you what the 25+ pages of application are how they're organized. So the different colors matter. So the blue there is just the basic background of it, building history, site description, that sort of stuff, square footage and basics, just the building itself and where it came from. The red there are the sort of status of the building itself. So envelope, exterior walls, roof, windows, interior finish, inside and outside, basically. Okay, all the structural pieces. The next one, the green there are the systems: heating, cooling, electrical service system repairs. The blue, one of the things that the MSBA really values is that the community has been trying to upkeep their buildings, not only these buildings but across the district. And so there's a big chunk, not a big chunk, but two sections that really speak to that. What maintenance have we been doing of these buildings and other buildings, and what capital projects have we invested in, both with MSBA and without? And we've done quite a bit, especially in the last 10 years. Probably quite a bit on that, so that's going to help us. Okay. The program overview, this reddish brown section is really what we're talking a lot about tonight. So the substandard spaces, program overview, what are you trying to accomplish at the school, the enrollment, but also the impact, the sort of state of the classrooms, the spaces, what's happening in them, how they've been converted. Again, sort of not the impact, but the actual how we modify the building to deliver what changes have been. And then the last piece there, the purple piece, is sort of the impact of all these things, impact on students, staff, the program, and what we try to in terms of lessons. One thing I don't have here, but I wanted this really highlight is not only is this needed, but it's part of an ongoing plan. The city and the schools and the committee have a very thoughtful approach over a decade, more than a decade, to placing our elementary schools. Any district, any community that does that has a plan or needs a follow-up plan that is 10 or even longer, 20 years, depending on the schools you're doing. And so, as I'll continue to show and help people understand is, originally the master plan study was done in 2014. And then probably work before that too, which I'll show next time. And then in 2016, the committee voted to have the 3-phase plan of going from 5 elementary schools to 3. I've done West Parish and Better very, very well. And this is the third step. So again, it's not only needed, it's also been planned for, and we're actually following that, so to its next step. And that's all. I'm sorry. Then, just I mentioned the vote on the language is varied. Anytime that the MSBA is having a city council or school committee vote, it's very specific language from them. You cannot change that language. I'm not going to read this language, but this is the language. Okay, we do one for one for Beam and one for Plum Cove. And then maybe have to document that vote as part of the submission. All other pieces you can look at, we also have to document that. I think that's what we have. And then we'll vote tonight. Okay, but questions, feedback, input, thoughts, changes in how we convince other folks, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, so if I just can make a comment about the convince other folks part, it's interesting because it seems to me the concept of doing this and getting in line, it's a pretty easy concept to comprehend. There's a long process, very bureaucratic, but it's very thorough. One other thing I just wanted to comment, you said about the plan. The plan is really impressive, how we thought this through. So we have a great plan and we have a process to go through that. The initial response from a lot of people who aren't tuned into all this stuff, and I've already had this, is why are you guys doing this? We can't afford this because we have to pay for this wastewater treatment plant, $200 million, and we don't even have a plan to pay for that yet. Which I say, number one, this is not a commitment to borrow money, to commit to any spending. This is a process on getting the MSBA into their process because they'll end up paying for a third of the school. So the financing part is way down yonder, and we will get to that. And one thing that I need to do is to get the financing plan for the wastewater treatment plant out in public, and so people can grasp that instead of just saying we can't afford it. So when you're talking to the city council and people say that we have a super plan, it's really great. And this first step, we're not committing to any spending yet. That will come some other day, and you all, the city council citizens, you'll get to approve or disapprove it at whenever time that comes. So I'm happy to help you however you want to make that presentation to the council or to O&A or whatever needs to be done. I've said it a couple of dozen times already, and I think it's sinking in, but city councilors, they wouldn't grasp the details of this just on their own. So that's a very good point of what we need to do, and let's do it. I think we can do it. I think it's possible to get over that first hump and get community support for this stage, because everything that was described tonight about the inadequacy of these facilities is really true.
Okay, great. Thank you all of you about that. Is that
sure.
I have a question, and thank you for firing me for a question. So we were talking about pay. For the fourth time I'm going through this process, but I don't know the answer to this question. I forget. There is a point where we put the statement of interest in, and then I believe we have to come up with a couple $100,000 for the feasibility study. What is the time frame? Because if we get accepted by December, and I'm just trying to understand when we would be asking for some money to start this process.
Yeah, good question. So that's the eligibility phase, and that's at the end of that. So 9 months later about.
So if say we got accepted in December of 26 this year.
Yeah.
So 9 months later, so
that's
the
when you
next
allocate, and then that money isn't spent for a little bit because then you've got to get into the feasibility phase. Okay,
Right.
Remember, because they said there's no guarantee you get into it.
No, I know. I'm just wondering when the first financial commitment is.
Yeah.
So it's not like that's 5 years away, right? That comes, then there's a stall, and then there's budget planning if we get picked.
I do what exactly right. And then I'll also have those numbers for what the people studying was for East veterans, at that point. So you'll have it, you and the city council have understanding of that. Right, that comes 9 months later. Also, at the same time, though, the MSBA board's got to approve us to move forward. As I said in the beginning, that's no guarantee they moves forward.
Right.
And there's plenty of communities who haven't because they don't get a building committee up there, any number of reasons. Also, they can extend that for you because you may be position, and I'm not sure actually about these veterans and, or East Gloucester and veterans, but it's very possible you folks, oh no, I'm sorry, I mix up feasibility. Because then the dollars you're talking about in the feasibility study gets you into which plan are going to. That can take time, because you're looking at.
The comment I wanted to make is, we're from Gloucester and we understand that we have such a strong sense of community, stronger than most, I would say. And after sitting here tonight and hearing what I've heard, even though I heard this 10 years ago when we were discussing Beaman, there's no doubt in my mind,
For West Carroll.
and even before that for Essex Star, because I felt that one too. I truly believe if we did not have such a strong sense of community, our schools would be falling apart. Because sitting here and listening to the conditions that were put forward by both principals to know that we're sending kids to school with privacy issues, safety issues, space issues. It's almost embarrassing, like, that this is still happening in this day and age, but grateful that we started the plan when we did, and knowing this is the end of that plan, the end result. I just feel so ugly right now, knowing that these schools are in this condition and they're allowed to operate that way. But very grateful for our community and the staff that is making this work, because there is a lot of good things happening under those roofs that are falling apart. And I can remember years ago looking at Beaman, like Jody Janoti said, when we did the tour of Beaman to make our decision of which school we were going to put forward, I remember seeing a plug with like 6 plugs plugged into each other. And that was before everybody had laptops and had the technology that we have now. So it's just, it's heartbreaking to hear this, but it just makes you want to advocate even more to make this happen. I know financially it's going to be a struggle for this community just because of the way the world is. But if anybody can sit and listen to what we heard tonight, there's no doubt that maybe they'll open their hearts and their heads and have more understanding to the obstacles that we all face every day sending our kids to school. But just wanted to get out how grateful I am for staff and parents and family for making it work.
So I have a comment, and I have 2 comments I could say. First, Mayor, to what you were saying about getting sort of the community on board. I mean, one interesting note, of course, is that the wastewater plant could have been done years ago with support. So I think part of the beauty of our plan is that, like, this is an MSBA. This is an approach for us to get money from the state building authority, right? And this is, I was active with the East Gloucester, with the East Vets. I mean, this is an application for the state building authority to give us millions of dollars to build this building. And when people compare it to the wastewater plant, my understanding is that there was money years ago, but people didn't want to spend it. So that was poor planning. And I would say this is very good planning, that we've been going through this process. And I think it's commendable to school committees and city councils for more than a decade. Yes. As a parent of Beaman students, I just will say to what Melissa said and to what Mrs. Janoti said, that school is long past its life, and we send our kids there every day. They have tremendous teachers, they have tremendous staff, they have a tremendous principal. They are crowded. They can overhear people in the nurse's office. They can overhear kids, can overhear other kids in every space. And as a community, that should not be good enough. And it's not good enough. So I understand there's plenty of people who don't have kids and who may not think it's important, but when we talk about how we want our schools to be in this community, how we want to improve our learning, how we want to improve kids' desire to be in school, that's largely, the staff, and they're doing it. They are doing so much in this space, but it's really important that we get them spaces that are appropriate. And that's just, I want to really put that out there as a parent.
It's like we can't even wait 8 years.
Well, these kids won't even be there.
I know, but
None of these
kids.
kids. So
It might be helpful to have some of you there and maybe you can take turns on April 9th and April 14th.
I have a quick question. How did you get to the point where East Gloucester became open space? Like, is there a way you could guarantee that to Plumbo parents or something like that where?
Yeah, that is so far down.
It's so far down, but on the other hand, you know, people are, you know, a lot of the neighborhoods.
So what
maybe-
happens is, what
Yeah.
happened was, we went through the feasibility and determined that we had a place to combine the schools. And that place was East Bedford, which means then that the school committee would declare East Gloucester school surplus, then we hand it over.
To the, okay.
We are not, we, the school committee, it's like, okay, city, here you go, here's your property.
Okay.
That's no longer.
But it was open space because of the land trade we had to do.
There was a land
because of
trade
the,
and there was.
It was.
We used the,
Article 97.
was it?
Article 97.
Article 97, we had to keep open space there because we took space that wasn't supposed to be used
Right.
from that.
Initially from, yeah.
And
Gloria
agreed to not
Parsons.
use space at, and to not fill in space at, East Gloucester, so that's why that's one of the reasons why there's open space over there.
Yeah.
So Heather, also further into your questions, is this body can't answer that in any way or no, there just isn't, I mean, because we don't have the authority to, the mayor doesn't have the authority to do that.
I know.
So, but I understand
Yeah.
the desire to do that, it makes a lot of sense, you know,
Yeah.
and
I don't understand the Plumco parents. I mean, I think that, again, it's such a long time, but I was an East Gloucester parent. I went to East Gloucester myself. I was pretty upset about the moving to school and everything, but you know, it was less of an impact when I heard it was gonna be open space, but I'm just thinking of what we could, you know, help.
But as a realtor, you can think of maybe building condos there and getting money to pay. for
Condos there. Still my community too.
I'm just thinking of repaying for the school, not to put more housing.
The condos
in a
aren't gonna pay
space
for
that
the
should be
school,
open.
businesses are.
I mean, I think that, and, you know, there are many pieces of this. One is just trying to get in the process of it all. But then after that, is a very significant community process about what to do and how to do it. You know, and whether to do it, honestly. But it's really important because the state of the buildings that the city, the community gets involved in that conversation in a real way.
Yeah.
And we can't do that unless we get started. But I do want to assure all of you and the whole community that there's a lot of process that would happen if we get involved. And then how to figure out what's the best solution, how to pay for the best solution. And it does, so anyway, that's but we can't even actually have those, they're all hypotheticals until we actually can get the process.
Yeah, I do think it's completely necessary. It's just, I can understand what it's.
And right, and part of this is that, you know, and there is change and challenge, you know, and you know, and maybe at some point letting go as well, and all that's hard. And that's what really needs to be talked about, discussed, and addressed as it's a big, it would be wherever direction the city goes would be a big change. 9th and the 14th, you said? Yeah, April 9th at BNF. Chair Scott Nemhard and his crew, BNF, and then the 14th with the full city council.
So just to bring it back around to what is before us is the statement of interest for both of Keenan and Plumco. It doesn't mean we're guaranteed to combine the schools, not combine the schools. It is about expressing the conditions and the deficiencies in the education. That because of the conditions of the schools and the size of the school, I mean, you could have a community that may have a really nice school, but they somehow have huge influx of population. They may be dealing with a different challenge than we have in terms of just keeping our schools operational and going until we can have a better solution and equitable. We have two lovely new elementary schools. And so right now is strictly about what we have isn't working. It's not going to last forever. So we need to get it. We need to get a ticket to the dance. That's what we're doing. So tonight we do not have the full statement of interest to read through, to vote.
I mean, you don't have the final one. You have like 90% of it.
Right.
I thought there was a recommendation on BNF.
So we recommended out of BNF.
So will we
what we talked about is we recommended that it be an app because we don't have another BNF meeting, but we also felt comfortable that we had enough information to make a recommendation.
Right.
The superintendent wanted to have, they vote, have 2 meetings first, think about it, and think about the next. It doesn't, it's not on our, it's not our agenda to take a vote tonight.
No.
But it was a recommendation how to be an app.
It was a recommendation out of the.
For the committee to consider. So what would be helpful from the committee members is to send, call, or meet with me, or send suggestions or revisions or things to identify or things that you might think you've been missing. Don't send it to everybody. Don't comment on everybody. That's not an open meeting, but you can certainly communicate with me. I'm asking you to. Okay, there's more work to be done here, but we'll have it wrapped up by BNF next week for city council. The work to do. But anyway, again, we can talk more about it as well.
Can I make a suggestion for those 2 meetings? I'm actually going to look to the principals. I don't know if they're still here. They are. The way they spoke tonight was so heartfelt. Like they are in the building every day. They know the building. They are struggling in the building. They know the temperature of the building because of the conditions of the building. If they were willing, I think it would be very helpful to have their testimony at BNF and City Council. Because it's not someone told me this, right? They're there. They're recipient witnesses to whatever's going on in those buildings. And the way both presented tonight was excellent as far as the compelling, the presentation was just so like, okay, we have to jump on this. We have to help this situation. And I just think if they're the voices at the meetings.
So I wouldn't.
If they're willing,
I
want
wouldn't
to add hours to their day.
Yeah, I wouldn't dare ask them that, but seeing as you have. We'll have to
I'll
consider.
pick you up and drive you there.
Have to consider. So we'll talk amongst ourselves here.
Dinner before.
I do understand the value.
Well, you're hearing from them, right? And they're the building.
I just want to be clear, it was your idea, okay?
Sorry.
Yes. Yes, that's.
Maybe they can tag team.
Yeah. Or on Zoom, even on Zoom, but to hear their voice, right? to see
Amy does know, she was a spokesperson for this, because listen,
Yeah,
I know, I've been in all these places, that but they live there every day, their staff is there, so.
And they're responsible for the building, so.
Totally get it.
So we'll be voting on April 8th.
Yes.
And the city council then has their meeting the following week, and then we will do the deadline for the NSBA.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Special education.
Thank you, principals. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Jody and Dan, appreciate you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jody. Okay, Special Education Reserve Fund, so Cody's here too to answer some questions and talk through things. Just so folks know, about a year ago, after many years of trying, then Mayor and City Council approved the creation of a Special Education Reserve Fund. This is commonly used and state allowed fund that municipalities can create to for a lot of purposes. In this case, to fund unbudgeted expenses that come up during the school's year. To address special education costs. It can provide for any unbudgeted for special education costs. We've been trying to handle this through contingency funding prior to this, but the Special Education Reserve Fund is a much more basically sound way of doing it, because there's a mechanism to also replenish that. So this is the first time we're, in order to use those funds, we have to get approval by the school committee and the city council. Okay. And then there's stipulations around both the allocations from it and also the proportion. So, well, as we've reported to you earlier, we've had to hire additional staff in order to provide for our students what we're legally responsible to provide for them through their IEPs. And part of that is a combination of increased numbers, especially in our district-wide programs, and then an escalation of need among some existing students and some new students. And you see here that because we've needed to add this year, and those have put our special education and or personnel line items out of whack. So there's those numbers. So there's total $530,000, additional unbudgeted expenses. Just in terms of going back to the reserve fund, so it was original appropriation, originally funded at $750,000 a year ago. It's earned some interest, about $12,000 interest. And then I believe 5% of free cash, that's the number, will be allocated each year to the reserve fund. Okay. That this year, free cash, which is sort of the balance of all accounts from the city at the end of the fiscal year, which is certified with a very number of processes that are state bound and state regulated. The city certified free cash at $4 million after FY25, and so 5% of that's $200,000. So you see the balance there is $961,000. We are requesting an allocation, supplemental appropriation. Cody in a moment will explain the words, okay, to our operating budget, our general fund, about $300,000, okay. You see that we have these additional expenditures is quite a bit above that, but we can manage those other, the rest of it through our other line items, our budget. Cody, what can you add that I missed or didn't say properly, or what can you clarify?
I think you hit the nail on the head. The motion at the bottom of the slide here came directly from working with Connor and the city to make sure we had the right language moving forward to city council as well. So should be in lockstep with the procedures that the city has for supplemental appropriations as well.
Yeah. We have done this before. So Connor McCorkle, the city's CFO, and Cody work close together. So we teed up for both city council and the city to appropriately move the funds. So Cody, one question I have is, because I don't understand, vote to approve supplemental appropriation 2026 SA, and then the hashtag.
Yeah, that is just a naming or numbering mechanism scheme that the auditor's office used to keep track of the number of supplemental appropriations in a given fiscal year. I don't know the number that they're on right now, so that's why I left it as, 2026-SA- number. I'm hoping to get some guidance from the auditor's office as to what number they're on in terms of a supplemental appropriation across the city.
Great. So as the mayor is saying, it's a placeholder. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what we're hoping to do tonight. Yeah, but questions or discussion?
I have two questions, and mainly I apologize, I missed BNF because of the plane cancellation on Wednesday, so I didn't get to ask this. The money that we're asking for, are these for mandated services? Majority mandated, so we are obligated by law to pay it.
Yeah, so these are for the district programs, in particular for intensive need autism. So we had an influx of kids required said service. Yeah. So yes, we had to expand with teachers.
So legally, we didn't really have a choice, right? We had to put these in place.
Yeah.
Okay, and then my second question, I'm going to direct to the mayor, if you don't mind. So we've never requested this type of supplemental funding before through this type of account. What discretion does the city council have to not approve it? or approve it? In other words, if they, what could cause a no vote that they would have authority to say no?
Generally on these kind of transfers, if all of the necessary approvals are in place, they pretty much just pass it without.
So you mean approval by the school committee?
Well, the school committee, the mayor signs it, the auditor, everybody who signs off.
Yeah, okay.
That's the document that goes to the city.
Okay.
Because it's coming from the reserve fund and everyone who has something to say about its appropriateness has said it.
Okay.
It's pretty much a done deal.
All right,
I
thank you.
shouldn't say those words. They give it their due consideration. They take into account all the smart people who have already signed up.
Okay, thank you for that. So, and I asked that question because I know there's talk, and that there might have been talk at the hearing, I couldn't really hear it that well, that we may be giving up our special ed contingency fund because we have this fund. So I just being concerned, wouldn't want to give up money that we have control over versus money that they may say no, right? So I don't know how I feel about that decision yet. But that's why I asked that question, because I'd like to have control of the money that we have versus having to ask. But in this case, it's mandated by law, so someone has to pay it. So I feel comfortable putting it forward.
Should be okay.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then all these positions you see, there's almost all of them, I'll point out the ones that don't. Almost all of them have to do with district-wide programs. You can see across levels here. There really only one or two that don't would be the East Veterans Point 4 FTE. That was a level of staffing that was needed that we didn't anticipate. The preschool ESP 1-to-1, I believe, is a high need student, and by their IP needed that support. Also mandated, and then ESP inclusion, that's similar to East Vets one, a level of need in a certain grade level that was beyond what we anticipated. That often will happen because either students change basically, okay, or the environment is different than the prior year's environment, and because of that, then something's happened to them. It's a higher need. So all the other ones are program-based needs, which obviously are our highest students.
Sorry, this is probably a really bad question, but so this kind of becomes part of moving forward. This becomes part of the budget. Because this is a one-off. Hey, this is to take care of people that hire. What is that? Those positions aren't going to just.
So almost all of these are ones that need to continue. Yes.
Yeah.
They're included in the budgets.
Yeah.
Say it a little different, to take it a step further. If we end up on a level instead of an increasing expense, and we have it, and it goes into this coming year's budget, technically, we probably would have to look back to the special reserve fund, at least for this kind of
Right.
coverage of the budget.
Right. That's the goal. I think that's what I was driving at.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then maybe years you need it, and years you don't.
And largely, if we don't do this, right, if we don't do this, then we'd be looking at placements, district placements for all the children that would otherwise have their education in their home.
We'd be asking for the money anyway to pay for it.
Yes.
We'll pay it from one way or another.
And we lose control.
And we lose control, exactly.
Thank you, Mike. Very, very. So that's the.
Okay, I move that we approve the supplemental appropriation 2026-SA number. I assume that gets filled in the amount of $300,000 from the Special Education Reserve Fund, undesignated fund balance account number 7900359000 to the school general fund, special education professional salaries account number S41040442-511101 for special education positions added after the fiscal year 2026 budget was approved.
Second.
It's a long motion.
It is.
Cody's first motion is a doozy.
Yeah, I'm still learning the ropes on the motions.
Well done, Cody.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any discussion? favor, say
Aye.
It doesn't require a roll call.
Wasn't
city
this
side.
vote, wasn't one of our votes supposed to be a 2/3 vote? It doesn't matter if you said aye. Or is that the statement of interest one? It's a 2/3 vote. One of them was.
I'll find out.
That's okay, we all said aye, it
If
doesn't
one
matter.
or either, it has to be. Okay,
I think
still
it's this
going.
one.
Cody, can you check about whether it's 2/3 vote or not for school committee or city council?
Sure.
Okay, great. Okay, so budget night isn't much of anything on budget because not much new news. But like, one thing I wanted to point out was that, these are next steps shared at the school committee meeting. So update long-term budget needs plan document, we're sharing that with you tonight, okay? Then, school committee and mayor will work together at my budget level, that's part of the goals, and the mayor wants a little more work on the goals, and you're welcome to discuss that tonight if you want to. But we help to get more direction on that. Then we continue to do the work of finalizing level of offsets, identify any positions that need to be reallocated, and then create a budget book. At this point, the budget book is going to be prepared based on then 2 weeks ago. That might change, okay? But really the intention was just to sort of zero in on the long-term budget needs. Sorry, you have that in your packet. Looks like that. And I'm going to highlight some changes here. Oh, I just want to remind folks, just in terms of the background here, as we've always said, doing since December, two things are budgets are always built on our 4 priorities here, which have goals, as part of them. And then also our district academic achievement goals are very clearly stated there. This was shown 2 weeks ago. And then also very tied to our budget priorities, all of which link very closely to our district plan for improvement. Right? I think we'll have to talk about it at a later date. Is we had some blips on transportation. We don't quite have the trainees in line that we thought we had just recently. So, but that's now is taken off as being a concern, back on as a concern, but more to come on that. That's not really budget related so much. Anyway, and then the last, so just to dig into this. Let me just actually pull the actual document up so I can show it. I mean, I'll show it on the screen, but you have it in front of you. Yeah, you can see it. So I can talk to it. So what I want to show first, so this is okay, let me just zoom in so folks at home can see this. So again, this is the long-term budget plan adjusted for upcoming, and it's got a few different chunks to it, which are important. Okay, this first one is you see a new position additional. This is what we want to do in the upcoming years, including FY27. Okay, you have a budget amount on the blue column. What we proposed 2 weeks ago to add in FY27. Okay, and so you see the cost for those pieces. And then what's not included this time. So if it's in the blue column but not in the green column, it's in the yellow column. Okay. And then the district-wide goal or budget variety it speaks to. So I've only added those for the new positions were new expenditures we're proposing for the FY27 budget. At this point, I'm just linking them to the 4 priorities. Okay. But they're typically tied to improving instruction and achievement, so our deepening learning, but also improving how our academic achievement is measured, and then also strengthening special education. Okay, but there's also a variety of those. So some down lower are very focused on strengthening special education, but also building stronger, more effective district-wide programs. And others are, and some of these also obviously tied to reducing the number of out-of-district placements. That's one example I just give. I'm hesitant to do a very specific goal on reducing a budget goal on reducing out-of-district placements, because that's a perverse incentive. Okay, we don't want to really don't want to prioritize. We don't want to have that as a goal. We want to have the goal to be making sure our students are being educated in the placement that's correct for them, and when possible, make sure it's close. That's in our schools, okay, in our district. Don't want to set targets on that or goals budgetally, okay, because that's not the decision. That's not the way we want to make a decision. So that's just a sort of an addition to this format here. That's essentially the first page. It goes on to the second page. Then you have beneath that. So those are long-term. The top sections are long-term additions. Then we also have we've separated annual adjustments. These adjustments we do every year. Salary increases, healthcare increases. Well, that might be changing. Tuition. That's sort of the as I shared last week, or sort of contractual and mandatory obligations. Okay, so they're always increasing every year, but they're a separate chunk. They are sort of us continuing to do business as opposed to adding or prioritizing. I should all copies of that.
It's at the back of, that's my transition.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, thank you.
And so we just separate these out from the lines above. And then the last part of the second page and the third page are all additions that were on the long-term budget plan and we've absorbed into the operating budget. Okay, so we've done a very good job of that. And that was some ways I was taking things off grants, some ways I was added positions. But you know, presumably over time, we want to see that last section grow and the first section get smaller. And the other change is that the first section may adjust. One thing we adjusted in the top section, which is the new position or additional items, is adjustment on some of the programs in elementary. So a couple more of that wasn't there last year. Let me just pause there again.
Those adjustments were in response to student needs.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Sorry, that's we would adjust the upper part here. You know, the long-term needs each year based on changes in could be curriculum needs, it could be student needs, that sort of stuff. What you don't want to see is wholesale changes year to year, kind of like the plan on the buildings. The plan of the time that is connected to.
Can I chime in to circle back on the?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Cody, again.
No, that's okay. Just double check to make sure the advisory from DESE and Department of Revenue, it is just majority vote from both school committee and the Board of Selectmen or City Council. So confirmed.
So just, I'm looking at the first page here, the new positions and the ones included in that 2027 budget. And it's just, given that we just heard this report on the overcrowding at Seaman, and now I'm seeing new positions at Seaman. So I understand those are based on student need, but do you understand how this is contradictory, potentially? Well,
so I understand your concern. I understand what you're saying. So, a couple things that are going on at Beeman and at Plum Cove too, but there actually isn't overcrowding in the classroom at Beeman. In fact, they have some pretty small classes sizes. So the overcrowding is happening because of special education services, that sort of thing, and not having spaces for either we're combining spaces for kids to work in and adults who are their office space, okay, or like an example, the gym is just terrible design, okay. But so tell me specifically what your concern is, because for example, co-teacher for Beaming, which is that second line, isn't adding a classroom, it's adding staff in a general education classroom.
Right, I was looking more at the lower elementary emotional behavior district-wide program, adding 2 full-time in the lower and upper elementary emotional and behavioral. So those look to me like 2 new full-time positions.
Paraprofessionals will be in that program. They're already just there. Yeah.
Okay, so we're putting another adult into the program,
Giving more
in that
support.
space.
That's correct.
So it's more support. or and it's more people in small spaces?
Yeah, so maybe you can speak to how many are in the low end now.
Yeah, so we do this in a way as we build out programs. These are new programs. Some of these are. So we do this and we roll this out as additions throughout. And so as we find kids who are eligible for the program, we value add, the support with them. So in doing this concurrently, as that relates to inclusion, we have to build our system of support, right? This is a systems approach to doing this. So we have to build our inclusion program, have infrastructure there. And as we know with kids with emotional disability, they might need a paraprofessional that goes with them for a portion of that time. So if you have a number of kids in the program and you have, and we're what I call dosing into the general ed, using the infrastructure as best we can, we also might have to use a paraprofessional to value add to that infrastructure, given an emotional disability.
Right, so.
Which is mandated.
Which is mandated, and I understand. I
Well,
guess,
let me add more detail here. So that specific line item on just the ESP, like the lower elementary emotion has 3 students in it. So if we add a student, typically we'll be adding a paraprofessional.
Yeah, so
But it's not about overcrowding.
the other part is,
those classrooms.
so you're talking about for when you have regulatory number for a sub-separate program, classroom, is 8 students with 1 special education teacher. That bumps up to 12 kids when you add a paraprofessional, bumps up to 16 kids when you add 2 paraprofessionals. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna have 16 kids with emotional disabilities in 1 classroom, I'm not saying that at all.
Yep, we would never do
So, right, but that, the number of the space is pretty low, but we're going to anticipate additional application, enrollment in the program.
And by-
That's foreseeable.
Yeah, and by doing so, just in this is a good example, actually, then we anticipate that we may not need it, okay? But then we're not using the special education reserve fund next year if we do need it.
Right.
Okay, so that's part of being planned.
It's predictable for the most part.
right, I hear you and I understand the systems approach. I see sort of 2 things happening at once. I see a space issue, physical space issue, and I see a programs issue. And they're sort of, they're not entirely, is what I'm saying. And like, I can't create more rooms, but we just heard about, right, all the overcrowding in other rooms of people having to work all together in rooms. And then, right, so then it doesn't really make me feel better to know there's 3 students in that room because we're still talking about an entire building approach.
Yeah.
So it's 2 sort of separate issues that are, from my perspective, that relate.
Another way it relates is because Plum Cove has no ability, just because of the size of the building, the number of classrooms, to house these right programs. Then 2 things happen there, and they're both in the SOI is you got to move kids potentially from their home school of Beaman to other schools to get the service they need. But you also and aren't able to appropriately distribute all the programs across all 4 schools, right? And you don't have the space, okay? Presumably go forward with, over time, readjusting the schools, rebuilding the schools, and do build proper, proper spaces. So, yeah, it is all connected. Really,
It's all connected, that's all I'm saying. And I understand a systems-wide approach on one, and, doesn't necessarily favor a building-wide approach on another.
Just a quick question. Do you think we'll have to modify that chart in any capacity due to reduction or lack of federal funding that could happen this year?
You want to speak about
title grants
yeah,
or?
title grants. Yeah, the title funding we get are title grants. They can also come through. Yeah. You want to speak to that?
I just don't know if there was an impact to this document.
So the title grants, we don't get the allocations till summertime.
Okay.
But the advisory that we're getting now is that Massachusetts is planning on holding us harmless for significant drops. Massachusetts as a whole is getting less title money from the federal government.
Title I.
Title I.
Yeah.
Because the poverty rate in Massachusetts is lower than it was during the last census that they're using. So Massachusetts said we can almost count on, they can't say guarantee, but we're looking to have at least 85% of our Title I funding funded for this upcoming
So
school
we don't
year.
have any positions or anything. in there?
We have some positions in there. We can cover most of our positions in there.
Okay.
Would be at risk is maybe our summer, learning academy. And maybe some tutoring money, but our teaching positions and there are 2 paras on it. We have 3 teachers and 2 paras on that grant. We can cover those with 85%. What we can't do is probably the summer learning program or some extra tutoring that we do at the buildings.
We made adjustments because of Amy's foresight in Title I, that only FY 26, anticipating that we have some reductions. And because we did that a year ago, a positive situation of a negative situation. So,
Last year, we had 6 Title I teachers and 2 paras, went down to 3 in anticipation of losing federal funding. All 3 teachers that were in Title I positions were very veteran, very skilled, very amazing staff. We were fortunate that we found one of them became a reading specialist, one of them became a program leader, and one of them became an ML teacher. So they all kept a job. They just got a different job in the district. We're fortunate to do a cut by protecting all of our staff.
For IDEA, I haven't heard anything from the federal level that would be defunded or any indication.
in fact, we've heard that it's remaining status quo. There was a lot of question at one point, but Congress pushed back, and so all of them were level funded.
But this year or going forward, I'm worried about next year.
For it was their FY 26, it's our FY 27. So just wait till it happens. And so, but again, Title I was level funded as well. It's just that because Massachusetts has lower poverty, Massachusetts is getting less.
Our portion.
Yeah, much portion of a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, so that turned out to be
The reason.
good news, not decent news, not
It was
terrible.
good news because we were expecting something.
But to answer your question, in part, I used the IDA grant, which is about dollars in part to pay for salaries for paraprofessionals.
Okay.
So it could, but we haven't heard anything that would be.
All right, thank you. So you commented about the summer program that would happen this summer.
No, this summer is all set. We've already have it staffed. Invitations have gone out. It is not touching this summer. Title grants run 27 months. So we're ahead. So we have full funding for the summer. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm fortunate to have it entirely staffed and invitations been out. And we also have tremendous support from PEF to expand. We have an extra ML teacher this year, classroom that year, so which is good.
I think that part of the agenda is finished.
About that.
We're done. I mean, the whole chunk is just, anyway, thank you.
Can I make one comment about the goals? I can't remember the goals. Your comment then about goal of less out of district placements, that shouldn't be a goal.
Oh, no, I didn't say that.
Oh, I thought you.
No, I said we shouldn't set specific targets financially. We shouldn't set budget goals.
Right.
But that's definitely a goal.
Okay, well, I was gonna just comment, I thought that was a pretty good comment. The goal should be to improve the quality and the breadth of our offerings so that we don't, but it's the improvement of the.
That's right.
Yeah, so I so I thought that's where you were going with that, and I was gonna compliment you. But.
I think distinction was lost. Okay, that's all right. Okay, that's fair.
But my point was, so as we go through all the departments in the city and, I'm encouraging them, insisting that they do goals too. The process that we're going through is much the same as this. What's a good goal? How do you measure it and all that stuff? And, we're getting a lot of input. Some of it's okay, some of it works, some of it doesn't work. That's all right. We're getting there. So just having the conversation and even about what I thought was your nuance about what the goal should be shouldn't be just the reduction of out of school placements. The goal should be the improvement.
Yeah.
Those nuances they're important. And as we work toward, measuring our success, that's really key. So I just wanted to compliment you.
Thank you. And I think that's one of the challenges in, education specifically, but a lot of this type of work is, how do we set goals, okay? We have a number of different goals in different areas, right? But how do we do a better job of, not just getting the data, we can get it at a lot of different levels, okay? But an area that we need to continue to improve on is how do we utilize that? Right? Like we have a lot of data on deepening belonging engagement, okay? Or data we can access pretty easily. Okay? But haven't done a great job of aggregating that or analyzing, I should say. So that's part of the challenge that we have. It's just not sometimes knowing what the measures are, okay? Because some of these things, but really even more so analyzing them in a way that's methodical, that's systematic, and then can show that improvement. That's an area that we've talked quite a bit about. In some ways we're strong in that. We're quite strong in that on learning. In fact, the principals just today are sharing quite a bit of student level data that they've been working on and tied to their goals for this year in terms of academic improvement. There are other areas to hone that, so. Sure.
So later on, you're going to accept hopefully a grant for $30,000, which is specifically to look at social emotional projects that we have and came from the grant 311. And this extension grant is to find metrics and how do we measure actual impact of all the things we're doing. So this is like an extension to one of those grants.
Yeah.
So we're doing exactly that.
That's great.
And this $30,000 will help us do that in the social emotional area. So just that goes along with what you're saying, which is what we're working on. It's just
that's good. Thank you.
Very timely you queued it up. So you need to accept it. I hope you accept it.
We gotta go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 8 on the agenda.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of the building funds.
Right, so I was gonna say, I don't really have to give a report at a meeting that I wasn't at to begin with, other than to say it's all been presented tonight, but the budget transfers, just very quickly, because they're larger numbers than usual. We have already approved a transfer of $339, which is to cover the health insurance for all the new hires that we just discussed for the special education program. $20,000 was transferred to cover unemployment costs, which I still don't understand why we even have costs, but that's another conversation for another day. And then there was a $500,000 tuition reallocation, which is, I believe, the special education students went from private tuition to a collaborative tuition. So it was just switching the money.
Yeah, when we built the budget, we put in one or the other.
Right, one or the other, you just have to switch it.
Yeah,
because
it's still tuition, it's just about, there's a private line for private placements, private institutions, and a line for public institutions, it's just switching it.
Just to switch it over.
Yeah.
So those were the transfers
Same
that
use
you
of
approved
balance.
earlier today in the consent agenda. If you have any questions, you can ask them.
Can I just make one comment about the unemployment transfer? I explained it at BNF, but it's really, we're trying to stay consistent with current bills, but I also expect we report on what we see as fraud or, incorrect data to the UTMC every month or every time reports come in or claims come in. So I expect there to be credits towards our account, which will then obviously
For
take
the
place.
unemployment, is that what you're talking about, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. I expect credits because looking at some of the payments we've made reports to, they just take long to process and we want to stay current with our billing. So I
That's
foresee.
assumed now is
We're
even
paying
the
it when we
claim
have to.
while we work through the process of getting reimbursed. Yeah.
Like claims on things we're paying now could show up in 2 months, 3 months on our bill and credit the most recent bill. So it's just kind of a never-ending battle and timing with the unemployment.
Thank you for that.
Go to UTMC.
gonna have to look it up. I'm
If you
sorry.
don't know off your top, it's okay.
Don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay. After your.
Unemployment Tax Management Corporation.
Thank you.
Is the our website.
I'll ask you again.
Are we gonna do the buses as part of this, you know?
We did it as part of consent.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's why
Yeah,
I just
they-
talked about it. That way you get the report, not me.
Oh, gotcha. I thought we were gonna see pictures.
Yeah. I think it is a whole packet.
It's fine. I saw the picture. I just, anyway.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see it.
We bought them for $1.
I know, no, I was here. I missed the picture.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. I saw it.
Okay, we'll move on to action that we have not done yet, which is acceptance of grants. And I think I would do them all together. I move that we accept the mid-year adjustment to increase the original fiscal year 26 Title I A and D 305 grant allocation by $533 from $683,062 to $683,595. Also, the mid-year adjustment to increase the original fiscal year 26 Title II-A 140 grant allocation by $950 from $97,323 to $98,273. And the fiscal year 26 SEL 311M grant in the amount of $30,000. Second. Okay, move in second. Let's go. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Okay. That concludes our business. If anybody has anything under your business.
I would want to, while you're there, Paul Murphy, I knew you was calling me there, so it's an adjustment. Your email that you sent out, I wanted to discuss that you brought it up throughout the meeting, but I just wanted to get clear understanding of goals piece. That you're looking for more goals. And I was looking for our district improvement plan, our plans that we have superintendent goals. So I guess I would just want to hear from you, like, what's the goals you want to add to the goals that you have?
Just give you one example.
Okay.
And again, you know, it's something that we have to work through the relevance of goals and how they're important. But for instance, in the initial budget presentation, there were additional faculty positions listed, which are over and above what we have now. And the question is, okay, so how do we know, how are we analyzing the need for those positions? And what are we going to look at to see if we made the right decision? So to add faculty, say, so now, you know, we talked about, well, because we've got to improve the programs. That's great. Then how do we know we add faculty that we've improved the program? What are we looking at for that measurement? That's what I'm talking about for a goal. So that when we pose increasing the budget, we have a way that we're going to say, and we will know whether we've achieved the purpose of adding faculty. There's got to be some way to measure that. We're going to add faculty to do what? Reading scores, whatever it is, there's something there. There's some reason that we're doing it, not just because we want to, you know, keep going. Keeping going is not a goal. It's a lovely feeling, but it's not a goal. Why are we adding, and what is the result we're looking for? That's what I'm talking about. And as I said, you know, we're working through this with all the departments. It's not pretty and it's not perfect, but it's a direction that we want to go. So let's try and find a goal that justifies additional expense, whatever we all think it may be relevant. That's what I'm trying to talk.
The only reason why I ask is for all the training that I've gone through in my 18, 19 years being on a school committee. It was always recommended, you don't necessarily attach a number to measure, right? Because we want measured goals, we want SMART goals.
Right.
But they hesitate and kind of send you in the direction that you don't necessarily look for a specific number because there's so many factors that are our control and
Right.
can't be controlled.
Right.
So when I read your email, and that's why I'm asking you, I got the impression that you wanted to measure something, which would mean like, we're increasing our scores by 20%, right? But then if we don't get there, what does that mean? Even though Amy has gone over the data with us year after year, showing us that there's always some sort of growth, but the number doesn't show that growth necessarily. You know, the trajectory is in the right way, but the number isn't number we want to be at. So I just don't want to get locked into goals that
No, and
necessarily
you're right, there's,
don't set us up for failure, I should say.
we don't want to do that.
Because it's a number.
We want to have goals achieved, there's no question about that. But here's an example of rather plain goal. The building inspector, he comes to us with his budget, and I want one more building inspector because I'm missing inspecting a lot of rental apartments. And if I can expect more rental apartments, we're gonna get more revenue. Here's the number of, you know, if I had another building inspector, we could get, pick a number, 40 more, 40 more inspections a month, and that means X dollars. So and that's simple. I understand that the nuances here are a lot more subtle. But there may not be a number for every goal that we're talking about, but there's some way more than we just feel like we've done a good job. There's something more than that. And since the experts are all here in this room, what is that thing? That's all.
Can I just ask, and I'm curious, I mean, so there's so much data that is that's being developed and that's driving our instruction.
Right.
Right, so I just want to ask like a clarifying question, like for me, that data is our resource for, are we, you know, how are we meeting our goals? Like those are our measures, and we're using those, you know, between MCAS and Star 360 and, you know, just all the different data points that we have. It feels like the data is there, I guess is what I'm saying, and maybe we just need to translate it
Correct.
somehow.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Yeah.
suggesting. The data, there's data.
Yeah, there's tons of data, more and more data. And actually to the plan from Gordon, right?
Yeah, as Superintendent Thomas did on that sheet, where adding the co-teachers is helping with both priority two, you know, connecting general and special education and improving instruction. But it's also, and we'll see data on that, hopefully, you know, the intent is with increased student performance. But it also addresses priority 4, which is tightening up our special education systems, so we have less out of district placement, that we can educate students in their home communities with their peers in the least restrictive environment and support them in the ways that they can.
And they're learning, they're meeting their goals, which I define their IEP, and they're meeting academic achievement goals as well, because you know, well, just and it's tied. The reason that's tied is because our most challenging performance is for education students. I mean, it's so clear, you know that. And so so those are all connected, and those are good examples, and it's helpful to hear you explain a little more clearly as you know that you can in email. And so I appreciate that, Mayor. I also appreciate the questions as well.
Yeah, but when we were having these conversations and Ben and Amy and Mike are talking about what they're doing, then you know there's a lot of analysis that's gone into it. And how you know, and I guess I'm just, you know, being the novice here on the school committee in terms of this collaborative experience. This is very helpful. That's kind of what I'm going for.
And also, you know, as you just said, we're very purposeful about why those positions. And we need to be more open or transparent to explain that to you, because we're crystal clear on why those positions are other ones. So, yeah, and thinking and then the rationale and the data and also goals behind it. So.
You have that already, like you have that information. It's just translating.
Well, then that's,
communicating. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing about like that aren't necessarily quantifiable, but there's other ways to get out the information. So ever since Ben has been here, it's, you know, a big push of belonging, right? Kids feel like they're part of our community. They want to come to school. They want to be more engaged, whatever. And there have been a couple of surveys done, both at the middle school and at the high school. I remember the middle school's an external survey, right, that talks about. Right, which showed, you know, like the majority of kids have a trusted adult. I mean, there were all sorts of, as much as we had challenges at O'Malley, there was some really good feedback from the students that were doing things well. And then at the high school, the thing that I was most impressed with is our guidance office has come so far from where it was just as a young American. You know, they felt they had the information they needed, they felt they had the time and the guidance, they felt they explored the opportunities for them after graduation that were appropriate for them. It was one of those things that there's no number attached to it, but when you have literally like an overwhelming majority of receiving that feedback from students themselves as seniors was like, oh.
The goal always needs to have a number attached.
No,
So just
right,
the accomplishment in itself.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, where he's new and may have not been here for those types of surveys, maybe it is time, and a new superintendent coming in, and new school committee members, maybe reevaluating the goals and what we're all looking to do might not be a bad idea.
And, you know, if we had articulated this back when we hired, you know, we moved Laura Harrelson, and kind of elevated her to be, you know, the director of counseling department at the high school.
Right.
And we didn't articulate, but the whole thing was we needed to improve our counseling department, right?
Yeah.
And that's evidence that.
But even
it's really.
tonight, our high schoolers told us that 50 kids went to UNH. Right, like that already, like that's an improvement right there. Like I heard that and I thought like, that's fantastic, you know? Yeah,
Good conversation.
that was part of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Motion to
adjourn.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Good night.
Thank you, whoever was hung in there, and thank you,
Thank you,
folks,
Cody.
for being with us.
Thank you, Cody.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.